is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Limited Resources. This is episode number 837. My name is Marshall. I'm one of your Limited Resources, and joining me on the line all the way from Denver, Colorado, it's Luis Scott-Vargas. Luis, we've got rares, mythics, and even a bonus sheet to cover today for Lorwyn Eclipsed. So we're going to go over those in our rare and mythic rare set review, where we're going to go over every single one of those cards, and we're even going to give them a grade. But more importantly, we're going to discuss them amongst ourselves in an attempt to help you get ready for your upcoming events, drafts, everything that you've got going on Magic-wise. Before we do, we wanted to say thank you to everybody who supports us over on Patreon. It's patreon.com/limited resources. If you'd like to support us, you get a thank you card and an LR sticker in the mail, no matter what level you're at, as our way of saying thanks. And we really do appreciate everybody who supports us on Patreon. We also want to say thank you to Ultimate Guard. They make excellent products to protect your cards, your decks, and even your whole collection. Think all the way at the sleeve, deck box, binders, backpacks, that kind of stuff. They make really good stuff. If you ever get your hands on a product from Ultimate Guard, it really stands out. The materials that they use right away, you're like, whoa, this is nice. And the designs are very thoughtful as well. Once you use them for a while, you realize, oh, there's a place for my thumb to go here. You know, it works front and back. They're tough. They use magnetic clasps on a bunch of their stuff. Just a bunch of really cool, well thought out design decisions that add up to a really great product. If you'd like to check out their full line of stuff, you can see it at ultimateguard.com. And if you want to pick up one of their products, you can do it at your favorite local game store or online retailer. Thank you, Ultimate Guard. We do appreciate it. Before we jump into the actual cards, we are going to discuss them, and we're going to give our takes on what we think about the cards. But it's always useful to put a grade as kind of a punctuation mark on them, Luis.
Yeah, so we use a grading scale. It's an A through F grading scale with 2 subgrades. And so starting at the top, we've got our A's, our bombs, our game winners, our cards that are good in many situations, especially when behind. And we're going to see a lot of A's in pretty much every rare and mythic review. That's kind of what rares and mythics are supposed to do, right? We're talking cards like the Rise of Sozin or the Legend of Kuruk. B's are cards that actively pull you towards their colors. So we're talking headliners for a set, go-to cards, and reasons to be in a particular creature type in this case. So we're talking cards like Grand, Epic Downfall, or Knowledge Seeker. C's are playables. The pawns of limited, pretty interchangeable, and you don't see a ton of C's in the rare review. I mean, you see some, of course, but we're talking cards like Badger Mole or Waterbending Lesson. Yip. D's are cards that are sometimes playable, but you're a little unhappy if you have to run them. They're mediocre, a little too expensive, a little too much setup. So cards like Tundra Tank or Cat Owl, Platypus Bear. And then F's. This is another category we'll see a fair amount of because there's a lot of rares that just really don't have any application for limited. So we're talking cards like Ruinous Fatal Fissure, Trusty Boomerang, Waterbender Ascension. Just cards that are just way too expensive or just don't do anything. Our subgrades are sideboard cards, which also you don't see a lot of in the rare review. Cards that you wouldn't play in the main deck, but can be pretty good out of the sideboard. And then lastly, build around. We do see a fair amount of these cards that by themselves, they don't necessarily do much, but they can do quite a bit with if you've built around them successfully.
Yeah, it'll be interesting too. There's always the challenge with sets like this that are more on rails, right? Where it's kind of like if let's say you're in Goblins, you have a big incentive to pick up, in some ways, as many cards that just say Goblin on it as possible. And if you're in that, then those build-arounds become almost trivially easy. But if you like pack one, pick one it, maybe it means that it's going to push you in a certain direction. So we'll try to contextualize those as well as we go along. We always change the color that we start with. We are back on white. So our first card up is Kinscare Sentry, which is 1 and a white for a 2/2 Kithkin soldier at rare. It's got first strike and lifelink. And whenever this creature attacks, you may put a creature card with mana value X or less from your hand onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking, where X is the number of attacking creatures you control. That's a pretty narrow ability, but it does seem pretty scary.
I mean, I was sold with 2 mana, 2/2 first strike lifelink, and the fact that sometimes it just gets you extra mana, basically for free, is pretty awesome. One thing to note is the creature is attacking, so you're not always going to want to use the ability even when you can't. Like, imagine you could attack this into their 3/2, but you have a 1/1. Yeah, you don't really want to put it into play tapped and attacking. So
that's right.
Just keep that in mind. But Kinscare Sentry, very solid B. You're just always going to be happy with a 2-mana 2/2 lifelink.
Agreed. And it's an important thing that you mentioned, which is that the floor of this card is already very playable and quite strong. And you can view that extra block of text as kind of icing on the cake, right? That you don't have to read that second block of text and go, well, if I can't take advantage of this, then I'm not playing this card. No, you are. Right. And especially if you're in white, and especially if you're in Kithkin. Next is Reese the Evermore. This is 1 and a white for a 2/2 legendary elf warrior. White. Elves are black and green in this set.
Rise the Redeemed.
Yeah, this one's rare. It has flash, and it says, when Reese enters, another target creature you control gains persist until end of turn. And I'm going to read persist because it's not one of the core mechanics. It says, when it dies, if it had no -1/-1 counters on it, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a -1/-1 counter on it. So this is, a creature that is on the verge of death, might get a little shot at life here if you can Reese in, before it dies. And it also has an activated ability of white tap, remove any number of counters from target creature you control at sorcery speed. So you can reset that -1/-1 counter and kind of get it back to being a fully fleshed out creature again. What do you make of this being in white? Kind of random elf warrior here.
Well, when it comes to like rares and mythics, then it's totally fine to just have kind of like these one-offs. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's too weird or confusing or anything. It just, it's fine. The card is good. Both of these 2-drops I'm going to try and cube, by the way. I think that they're pretty neat. But Rise the Evermore is definitely better. I mean, 2-mana 2/2 flash already has some kind of like, ambush applications or whatever. But more than that, it's just going to save a creature the turn you play it. And then later you can take the counter off. And it works with all the other things that have counters in the set. So Rise looks kind of like an A- to me. I can just imagine casting this, saving like a 3 or 4 drop, and then it just has utility in play. It's just not asking a whole lot from you.
Yeah, the only thing I'm wondering about is the fact that it's in white. And I don't mean from like a design standpoint, but I mean like the white, like that isn't really doing the whole like put -1/-1 counters on my stuff, right?
Well, there is the cycle of cards that come into play with some -1/-1 counters, and you have to meet the conditions to take them off. This already kind of does that.
And this removes all of them in one shot?
Yeah. Mostly it's just a really good trick. Like, you get to use this and just save a creature. I think that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I like B+, trending into A- for Reese the Evermore. Next is Adept Water Shaper. This is 2 and a white for a 3/4 Merfolk Cleric at rare. It says other tapped creatures you control have indestructible. So you're getting a 3-mana 3/4, and it's important that we mentioned kind of the baseline on these cards. So far we've had a 2-mana 2/2 First Strike lifelink, a 2-mana 2/2 flash, and now a 3-mana 3/4. These are all pretty dang acceptable. Like you could throw not that much on these cards and have them be, make the cut basically all the time. And Adept Water Shaper is right there as well. And it's a Merfolk, and it's on color, and it cares about having things tapped, which means, if you have the ability to instant speed tap your stuff / just attack, this thing's going to do a lot of work.
Yeah, and it's a 3-mana 3/4 Merfolk.
Yeah.
Like, you're just not that unhappy about that either. So I like B+ for Adept Water Shaper. Card's been good.
I like that too. Next is a Planeswalker, which we haven't had in a little while. This is Ajani Outland Chaperone. This is 3 mana. So 1 white for a 3 loyalty legendary Planeswalker Ajani. It is a mythic rare. And this goes to the classic 3 activation modes and no static. So +1, create a 1/1 green and white Kithkin creature token. Wow, that's really strong straight off the bat. -2, Ajani deals 4 damage to target tapped creature. Still very good, and notable that you get to keep Ajani around after that. And the third is the ultimate, as we call it. This is -8. So this is pretty far off, but it does say, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is your life total. You may put any number of non-land permanent cards with mana value 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield, then shuffle. That's, dude, and this thing does come down early enough and produces chump blockers or some type of blockers or whatever that your life total could be really high.
Yeah, I think that Ajani is awesome. I mean, the natural case is either play this and make a Kithkin. Now you have a 4 loyalty planeswalker with a chump blocker, so it's not that easy to kill, or play this and just kill their only creature, or you know, reasonable case scenario, you had a 2-drop and then you play this and whatever ability you use, now you have either multiple defenders or you killed one of the creature plus have a defender. And the ultimate might not be like the biggest ultimate in the world, but even just the first 2 abilities, I'd already play this. And the ultimate does mean at some point it's like, all right, I'm at 17 and you didn't mess with my Ajani. I guess I'll just sack this and put 6 or 7 permanents into play, maybe more.
Right.
So I like A for Ajani.
I do
the
too.
fact that it's deal 4 to a tapped creature means even if they have like a flyer that's beating you down, this still is a good play in that spot. When we look at planeswalkers, and we haven't looked at them as often anymore because there aren't quite as many being printed. Often what we would have said was like, well, how does this do against like a flyer? And it turns out Ajani does just great.
Yeah, the other litmus test that we use for planeswalkers is does this +1 protect itself / add to the board, which it does, and does its minus its middle ability, does it kill something or take a threat away? And this usually does. And that's on a 3 mana planeswalker. I mean, like you said, it's not hard to curve a 2-drop into a 3-drop in a white deck. Like that'll happen all the time. And you're going to feel so far ahead. I think a Johnny Outland Chaperone is amazing. Definitely an A for me from that. That is scary. And it's probably going to be a Grown Test award winner. Next up is Brigid Klaken's Heart. This is a double face card. And this is like a cycle, right? For the core. Like I got the Goblin version of this online. I think that there's one for each. Anyway, we'll figure it out as we go. This is 2 and a white for a 3/2 legendary Kithkin warrior at rare. And it says, whenever this creature enters or transforms, more on that in a minute, into Brigid Klaken's Heart, which is this side of it. So that leads you to believe that it can transform to something else and then back to this. You get a 1/1.
Yeah, there's a cycle of 2 color cards that swap back and forth and do something every time. So this is the first one.
There is a cycle. Okay, cool. Yeah. And this one gives you a 1/1 green and white Kithkin. So when it ETBs, you get one, and then when it turns back into this front version, you get a token. And it says at the beginning, and it's a 3/2. At the beginning of your first main phase, you may pay green. If you do, transform Brigid. These are some of the easiest to transform. It's just wait till your next turn and pay a mana, and it becomes Brigid Down's Mind or Dune's Mind. And this is a 3/2 legendary Kithkin soldier still, but now it has the activated ability tap, add X green or X white, where X is the number of other creatures you control. And at the beginning of your first main phase, you may pay white. If you do, it transforms back into Brigid Klaken's Heart and you get another token. So it spits out tokens and produces a bunch of mana. And basically every turn you just pay to keep flipping it back and forth. But, even if we zoom out a little bit here, Luis, we have a 3 mana 3/2 Kithkin that makes a Kithkin on ETB. So, even in worst case, if they kill it, you're still a bit ahead there.
Yeah, this card's great. You could easily play this in like Merfolk outside of Kithkin was what I mean. And because it's a 3 mana 3/2 that plus a 1/1, and that's just like a totally fine card. Mm-hmm. But in Kithkin, it's quite strong because what you'll do is you'll play this. Next turn, you'll pay 1 to transform it, but you'll be able to tap this for at least 1 mana because it made a token, but probably 2, sometimes 3 mana. And that means you can just easily justify swapping it back and forth, or sometimes leaving it as the green side and just tapping it for a bunch of mana. So I like B+ for Brigid. Just a very strong card. Very good in Kithkin.
I like it too. And it's, it's right there within that A- B+ range. The only knock on it, is that it's a 2 toughness creature. So if they do have a removal spell, they're going to be able to take care of it. But, they have to. Next is Champion of the Klaken. This is 3 and a white for a 4/5 Kithkin Knight at rare. It has flash. So 4 mana, 4/5 flash. And it says an additional cost to cast this spell, behold a Kithkin and exile it. So it says exile a Kithkin you control or a Kithkin card from your hand. other Kithkin you control get +1/+1. And when this creature leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to its owner's hand. Kind of a lot going on there, Luis. Lot to like though, right? 4 mana, 4/5 flashes, that's one step off of a flat out removal spell. But this extra cost is a real thing. You mentioned this on the review last week that, this is a modified version of Champion, which made you exile a creature on the battlefield. This one allows you to take one from your hand instead, so your opponent can have no clue that you have the ability to cast this. But that is a big cost, right? I mean, it does make it harder to do.
Yeah, and if this gets like locked down, like I played Champion of the Shore, the Merfolk one, and one of my opponents played the blue lockdown enchantment on it, and it's like, oh, I'm not getting this other thing back, like that.
Wow.
It ends up being some, like, if they can deal with it like that, then you might end up having your investment kind of stored away, unfortunately, under the Champion. And sometimes you won't have the Kithkin, but obviously that's not like the most likely case. Mostly it's that you end up kind of putting yourself in an awkward spot because you're going to remove a Kithkin from the board or make it so you can't cast one in order to get your Lord. But in a Kithkin deck, that's just not that big of a deal. And
I guess counter spells are very good against this.
Oh yeah, counter spells also actually really do hose this. That's also true.
Okay. High risk, high reward, I would call it, right? But I mean, dang, this thing pays you back. I mean, in a scenario where, you can flash this in and block, even if it were to die later, you would have eaten one of their creatures and feel okay about the exchange. You can flash this in the middle of combat.
Yeah.
And give your,
it's a combat trick. It's a surprise blocker. Like it just does a bunch of different stuff. And I think that the fact that it's a very powerful Kithkin card, does exactly what Kithkin wants, and is pretty flexible. It's like an A in Kithkin, like an A- in Kithkin, and not very good outside of it. You're not really going to play it outside of Kithkin very often.
Generally speaking, you'd rather exile one from your hand, right? You haven't made the investment of paying the mana to get it on the battlefield.
Well, that depends, because if it's an ETB creature, then you'd actually rather have played it, gotten the ETB, behold it, replay it, get the ETB again. If it's just an average creature, then yes, spending a card out of hand is better because you didn't have to go through the whole rigmarole of casting it. These, by the way, the cycle, also very good against lockdown enchantments.
Yes, very good.
If they play a lockdown enchantment and then you just play this beholding that creature, like that, then you're just kind of in the money at that point. So
this also does save creatures from removal, right?
Mm-hmm. They kill something and in response you play this. The fact that it's flash makes that so much more interesting. Yeah. It's very, very cool. So
A- for Champion.
I like A-. It's basically a build around A is what I would say.
Yes.
Like if you have if you have a Kithkin deck, you'll play this card. If you don't, then you're just not going to play it, and it's going to be really good when you have it.
Right, because it is worth noting, like if you cannot do the Kithkin thing, you cannot cast it. Like if you have no cards in your hand and you draw this, and there's no Kithkin on the board, you cannot play it. So you do need to make sure that you're, paying attention and actually drafting a Kithkin deck. Don't try to splash this in your Merfolk deck or something. Next up is Morning Tide's Light. This is 3 and a white for a sorcery. It's mythic. And it says exile any number of target creatures. At the beginning of the next end step, return those cards to the battlefield tapped under their owner's control. Until your next turn, prevent all damage that would be dealt to you. And you exile Morning Tide's Light, so you can't loop this over and over.
Yeah.
What is that, like a super fog?
Yeah, it's like another one of those like Teferi's protection type cards. And given the propensity to keep printing those, I have to assume that those cards are like fairly popular among a certain segment of their population. So right. I'm out on this. This doesn't do anything.
Yeah, so this does kill a bunch of tokens, but would it? Is there any sideboard implication for Morning Tide's Light?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could justify it against someone, but like the tokens decks aren't like, even against goblins, like I guess you're
hitting a bunch of 1/1s.
Play this, kill 3 of your. It's a sorcery though, so you can't even do it in response to them trying to kill you with something. So
yeah. I mean, there's something interesting about, I'll kill 2 of your tokens, I'll exile my ETB creature or something, but it just doesn't seem to quite add up to being worth a card at face value. I would start off low on Morningtide's Light and avoid it until somebody said, hey, look at what this thing can do. And then, okay, fine, maybe I'm interested. Next is Airdew, Carrier of Dawn. This is another mythic. This is 3 white for a 5/5 legendary elemental god. And it's got flying and lifelink. And it says creature spells you cast have convoke, so you can, use your creatures to help out, as they say. And at the beginning of your first main phase, you may pay black. If you do, transform Airdew into Isilu, Carrier of Twilight, which is a 5/5 legendary elemental god still. It has flying and lifelink still. And it says each other non-token creature you control has persist. That's the one that when it dies, it comes back with the counter. And at the beginning of your first main phase, you may pay white to transform it back over to Airdew. Now, this one doesn't have an ETB/transform bonus, but holy smokes, Luis, they push this sucker. 5 mana, 5/5 flying lifelink that gives everything convoke and then persist after you get bored of that. Holy smokes.
Yeah, I think that, something like 90% of the card is flying lifelink, and that's a good card. I'll always put that card in my deck.
Right.
As long as you're playing white. You don't have to be playing black at all for this. And yeah, sometimes you'll play this and convoke something out. Sometimes you'll switch and it kind of protects your other creatures, but it doesn't really even matter because at this point, they're going to kill this before they kill any of your other creatures. Right. So I'm not really that worried about this protecting my other stuff. So I like Airdew at probably like A-. Just 5/5 flying lifelink is just no joke.
Totally. And I could also just easily see a turn where you play this, have 2 or 3 other creatures and just play another creature straight away. Right. One of those like explosive.
Yeah. You could, if you like had 2 tokens out or 2 creatures, you play a 3-drop, like you're going to feel pretty good about that. I mean,
that's like an absurd turn. Next is Kinbinding. This is 3 white for an enchantment at rare. It says creatures you control get +X/+X, where X is the number of creatures that entered the battlefield under your control this turn. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 1/1 green and white Kithkin creature token. Oh man, I love cards like this. These type of cards, Luis, that like kind of just, if it sits here long enough, you're going to win. You don't have to do anything else for the rest of the game. But holy smokes, that's pretty slow, right?
Yeah, it's slow, but it's beginning of combat. You make a creature, so you can just play this, immediately get a 1/1. Your whole team has +1/+1 this turn, and on most turns, especially if you're a white creature deck, you're gonna go like main phase 1, play a creature. Next, and then it gets a token. Attack all my creatures are +2/+2, or sometimes +3/+3, and that's pretty powerful. It's kind of like this is a class of cards which is very popular, which is a card that presents the puzzle and then also solves the puzzle by itself.
Yes.
And so you get the clever feeling of I solved the puzzle, even though the card kind of did for you. But you can also maximize it by playing more cards that solve the puzzle at the same time. So it is neat. I think it's nice.
Do you think it's really powerful? Like if you put this in a normal, white-based curve-out deck like a Merfolk or a Kithkin deck, this thing will just kind of take over at some point, right? It feels like, what I said about it giving you that kind of inevitability isn't really the name of the game. Like it feels like it's going to kind of slam the door on the game. Yeah. Like if you ever give your creatures +2/+2 in a turn, like it's a lot of good attacks there.
It is. And I think that you don't need to do a lot of work to make this card good, but obviously the wider you go, the more creatures you have, the better it is.
Okay. What would you give it? Is it a B+? Is it a B? Is it an A?
I'm thinking B+ probably.
That's what it seems
like.
It's
good. It is expensive, but it is very good.
Next up is Slumbering Walker. This is 3 white for a giant warrior at rare. It's a 4/7, and it says this creature enters with 2 -1/-1 counters on it. At the beginning of your end step, you may remove a counter from this creature. When you do, return target creature card with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, you play this, you immediately are getting a card back, and you're gonna have a 3/5,
Three
which or three
six, I
six.
guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is pretty great. So all you have to do to make Slumbering Walker excellent is just make sure you got some creatures in your deck, but that doesn't seem very hard. And this looks like an A- to me, honestly. Like if you play this
Yeah. What the
and
heck?
your opponent probably doesn't kill it right away, you get a card back right away. Like it feels like you're gonna feel pretty good about that situation.
Yeah, and if you really want, you can just play it and just remove the counters, right? And just have yourself a 4/7 a turn later.
Yes, you can always remove a counter
Yeah,
because it's like a
not
reflexive
exciting
trigger.
there, but yeah.
So you can always remove a counter even if you've got nothing to bring back.
Yeah, I like A- for Slumbering Walker. Seems like it would slot right into these white decks kind of perfectly. Only knock on it, right? And this is a thing that we always have to kind of gauge is it's a giant warrior, right? It's not, it doesn't fit naturally in either of the more focused on tribes in white. Next is Winnowing. This is 4 white for a sorcery at rare. It has Convoke, and it says for each player, you choose a creature that player controls. Then each player sacrifices all other creatures they control that don't share a creature type with the chosen creature they control. Can you translate that for me?
Yes. So for each player, you choose a creature, and for yourself, you're going to want to choose a creature that shares creature types with all your other creatures. So you're an elf, you choose one of your elves, you sack all your non-elves, or cards that aren't elf. It doesn't matter if they have other types as long as they aren't elf. So this never kills changelings, by the way. Those always survive this. For your opponent, you choose their, say, Slumbering Walker, and they sack all their non-giants.
I see. So it punishes them for having an outsider.
Yes.
Man, I just always kind of glaze over when there's like, I mean, how can you control how good this is going to be from game to game?
Well, you can't control what's in your opponent's decks, but it's less controlling how it's going to be and more just looking at like, how does this tend to play out? Do people often have a random, kind of off-brand card for me to take advantage of? And the answer is not clear to me yet. I mean, I think that I would believe this card could be very good. It really does punish you. One thing I don't like about this card actually is if you aren't familiar with the format or thinking about it, one of the ways you can lose a game is by playing a random giant in your Kifkin deck. You cast it the turn before you're going to win, and then they untap and they're like, all right, winnowing your giant.
Totally. Totally. The other thing, this is maybe more of a game design perspective, but one thing I don't really like about it is it does seem to feel that the better my opponent's deck is, the less good this is against them.
It's true. It's true. The better their deck is, the more likely they're just very linear and cohesive and don't have random, fairies in their elf deck or whatever.
Right. This is another one I would start off low on. I am not convinced that Winnowing is going to be, the type of card that you're like, oh no, they had Winnowing. It could be that this format presents board states consistently enough that have one random other creature. That could be the case. Absolutely. It's hard to make decks that are just all, on creature type, but man, I just don't think I'd want to be the one holding Winnowing, just praying that my opponent plays that giant or whatever, that's in their deck. And if they don't, it doesn't do that much.
Yeah, I mean, that is the risk with it. This one's kind of confusing. My guess is that it's going to be quite good in sealed because sealed people are going to have less cohesive decks and slightly more, kind of like unholy amalgams of just random creature types. But yes, I would say that in general, Winnowing doesn't look spectacular to me.
Yeah, I mean, this is a prove it card for me. Like basically I would give it an F. And if somebody, and then if I get my butt kicked by it a few times, or the play patterns of the format do actually prove that they're conducive to this being an effective card, then I'll come back up on it and I'll start drafting it. That's where I'm going to start, though. Not convinced at face value. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is going to be one we're going to need to see more info on, but thinking about the games that I've played so far, it's frequently not going to do that much. Because the thing is, if they have like 3 creatures in play, at best you're killing 2 of them, and that can be good, but isn't necessarily amazing. I guess I guess where it would be good, and I have seen some of this as board stalls. The boards can get to the point where they're pretty big, and at that point, I could see winnowing being effective.
Okay. Last white card is Curious Colossus. This is 5 white for a 7/7 giant warrior mythic rare. And when this creature enters, each creature target opponent controls loses all abilities. Yeah, becomes a coward in addition to its other types, and has base, power, and toughness 1/1.
Oh yeah. This card is awesome. There's a bunch of 7 mana bomby giants, and I just think that like building around them to have a deck where you just cast it seems pretty good. You just cast this card and you have a 7/7, and all their creatures are just awful now.
I love it. I also just, anytime the coward thing comes in, I appreciate it. It's a good callback. What would you give this card? Like, let's say you're in Merfolk, and you open up a Curious Colossus. Are you like, oh, hell yeah?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the main constraint here is, can you get to 7 mana? But I actually think Merfolk is a good example of a deck that can, because Merfolk just has a decent amount of card advantage. It'll play like the Convoke, draw 3, and it has got like the Eclipsed Marrow and stuff like that to help find lands. I think that Curious Colossus is an A, and 7 is like the sweet spot. At 8, you have to really contort your deck to make sure that you can play an 8-drop. It's just like, at 8, I don't assume I can just cast this card. At 7, though, I feel like you can. And you can just, under the normal circumstances of a game, cast a 7-drop. You just have to kind of play to it a little bit more. And so I think Curious Colossus is an A. It's a card I'd be happy with in Merfolk. I'd be happy with in a lot of the decks that you could draft. And I think the main thing I would look for Curious Colossus is make sure you have some ways to draw extra cards or hit land drops. Like you want to be sure that you're able to actually get to 7 mana.
Yeah, really cool card. I like A- for Curious Colossus just because of the 7 mana, but I mean, whatever, super powerful when it hits. That moves us to blue. First blue card is called Fitterwing Nuisance. It's blue for a 2/2 fairy rogue at rare. It's got flying, and it enters with a -1/-1 counter on it. And you can pay 2 and a blue and remove a counter from this creature, any counter you want. And whenever whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker this turn, draw a card. Pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in for a 1 mana 1/1 flying if you give me like a little bit more, and this definitely does. Like the fact that you can remove a counter, make it now a 2/2, and then you draw a card. Or you can choose a different creature if this isn't the one getting in, which is nice too.
Yeah, I mean, this just doesn't ask that much. The only downside, of course, is that it's a fairy rogue. It doesn't fit into elementals or Merfolk in that way. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't need that much more, and this gives me just enough. I give it like a C+.
Oh, I would say this is just a B. Like, if your opponent plays this on turn 1, you're not going to be like, oh yeah, I can just ignore that. You're going to feel like, oh, that's going to be pretty annoying. It's going to draw a card and be a 2/2 flyer.
I don't know. I think I can ignore it. Like at some point, if they want to dump the 3 mana in, that's okay. Like I can, if your opponent keeps up mana or whatever, like you're just not going to do that. You're not going to just, hope this all works out or whatever. Maybe at some point they cash in the card. Yeah. But I mean, it's a 1/1 flyer up until that point. I'm not saying it's bad, but I don't know. It's a little clunky, I guess. The 3 mana is kind of expensive. Maybe it's like, maybe you set up a sick turn with a bunch of flyers and you draw 4 cards off it. It does trigger other stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, if
there's upside.
If you draw 2 cards off this, you think it was really excellent.
Then it's done. Yeah. Okay. So B-. I'll go for Flitterwing Nuisance. Next up is,
I can accept a B-.
Lockmare. This is 1 and a blue for a 4/5 horse serpent. It's mythic rare, and it ETBs with 3 -1/-1 counters on it. And it has 2 activated abilities. One of them is 1 and a blue and remove a counter from this creature to straight up draw a card. Wow. The other one is 2 and a blue, remove 2 counters from this creature to tap target creature and put a stun counter on it. Dang.
Yeah, I mean, this card's awesome. This one's going in the cube as well.
I bet.
It's just, I think, a very strong card. So it's a 2-mana 1/2, but then you immediately are like, draw a card, now it's a 2/3, draw a card, now it's a 3/4, draw a card, now it's a 4/5. Or if you've drawn enough cards somehow, you can spend 3 mana and just turbocharge it up almost to a 4/5 immediately and end up attacking with it now that it's a 4/5. So I like A- for Lockmere. This card's good at any stage in the game.
Can we just give it an A?
Yeah, I could just give it an A.
Like, I think the real question I have for you, Luis, is play pattern wise, like, is this a turn 4 play or is this a turn 2 play? I know you'd probably run it out there if you didn't have anything else on 2, but man, there's something real warm and fuzzy about playing it on 4 and being able to get that card back kind of regardless.
I think if you have other things to do, I think playing this on turn 4 is a nice place to be.
Okay.
I don't think you need to worry too much about the timing on this. Like you if you cast it, it's going to be good. Obviously, it is nice to kind of ensure you get a little bit more value from your card. But I think if you just cast this card, if your curve, dictates you cast it on 2, then cast it on 2. And if you can wait and do something else, then do that.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I mean, the only fail case I have is I play it on 2 and they like bolt it or whatever, right? Where I'm like, oh,
yeah, you do want to avoid that if you can.
Yeah. Because I mean, think about the normal play. Like even if you don't use the second ability and you just, you got 3 cards in a 4/5, it's like, what? This card's just nuts. Next is Rhymefire Torque. This is 1 and a blue for an artifact at rare. It says, as this artifact enters, choose a creature type. Whenever a permanent you control of the chosen type enters, put a charge counter on this artifact and tap, remove 3 charge counters from this artifact. And it says, when you next cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. Wow, that really flopped at the end, Luis. I was thinking, like, how many cards am I getting? How many things do I get to kill or bounce or whatever? And then it's like this sort of conditional, I mean, the thing is, it does kind of make sense because, in a well-built deck, like this is going to pick up charge counters quite easily. The downside here, though, is that, this is taking the place of one of those creature types. We talked about this on the commons and uncommons review. When decks are linear like these are, you don't get a lot of slots for cards like this. Like this is a perfect example of a card I just would end up never putting in my deck, because these slots need to be filled with things that affect the board or creatures of the chosen type.
Well, this also takes a slot itself, but then also you need to have a bunch of spells in your deck.
Yeah, wait a minute. Even
so no, I'm off rim.
Yeah, I guess I would give it an F. I mean, it's not an F power level card, but given the context of this set, I would assume that playing it at a rate of F would be correct.
Yeah.
Next is Sig Wanderwine Wisdom. This is 1 and a blue for a 2/2 legendary merfolk wizard. So this is the merfolk version of the flip cards that we talked about before. This is a 2/2 that can't be blocked. And whenever this creature enters or transforms back into this version of it, target creature gains, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, draw a card until end of turn. And at the beginning of your first main phase, you can pay white to transform Sig into Sig Wanderbrine Shield, which is also a 2/2 that can't be blocked. And it says, whenever this creature transforms into Sig Wanderbrine Shield, target creature you control gains protection from each color until your next turn. And then again, at the beginning of your first main phase, you can pay blue to transform it back into Sig Wanderwine Wisdom.
Yeah, this is a nice little card.
It is.
Starting out at the baseline, it's a merfolk that's 1 and a blue for a 2/2 unblockable.
Right.
I'm already in. That's like a B. That's just like the absolute floor on this card. And then you cast this, and if you have a good attack, it's awesome. Imagine a 1-drop with this, right? Mm-hmm. But even if you don't have a 1-drop, if you cast this on a turn where you think you have a good attack, you're like 2 mana, 2/2 unblockable. Now just immediately drew you a card.
Wow.
So you first of all don't need to be white to play this card. You can just play this in a blue deck, like a blue-black deck, like a fairies deck would love to play this card.
Yeah.
They play a fairy, then they play this on turn 4, draw a card, and now you have a 2/2 unblockable. If you can flip it, you're now opening up some pretty nice attacks. That's basically what it is, because you're not really, it's sorcery speed flip. You're not really stopping anything else from happening. And then sometimes you'll flip it back in order, if you have a good attack, to draw a card. The real joke is you flip this back from the white side to the blue side, make it so it draws a card and now it's unblockable. So now you've kind of assembled that combo. So I like B for Sig, except if you're blue-white, which is the more common one. This is a B+. This is just a really, really strong card.
Agree with everything there. Next up is Glenalendra Guardian. This is 2 and a blue for a 3/4, fairy wizard at rare. It's got flash, flying, and you guessed it. It enters with a -1/-1/-1 counter on it. And then it has the ability 1 and a blue and remove a counter from this creature to counter target non-creature spell, but its controller draws a card. So you get to negate something, but they do get the card back. Still, that can be a key leverage point or a big spell from the opponent that maybe you get. And you're getting a 3 mana 2/3 flash flyer until you do remove that counter. Pretty good. One question, Luis. Do you need to have a target lined up to remove the counter?
You do, yeah. You can't just run it out.
Can't just remove the counter. Okay.
But I mean, we're talking 3 mana 2/3 flying flash to start with. Already interested in that.
Yeah.
And then when this is in play, it's sitting there kind of threatening to stop your opponent from playing a good spell. And then the fact that they get their card back does mean it's like not completely egregious, but it's still really, really good. So
I mean, you would just do that, right? Because you're looking for an excuse to get this counter off of this creature to make it better as well. Like, let's say they say, you have a 2/2 and they're like, okay, I'm going to shock your 2/2. You just kind of do it, right?
Well, that mostly just depends on the kind of the board state, because they do get a card back, so you don't really want to counter something too crappy. Like making your 2/3 into a 3/4 is of variable importance. Sometimes it's really important. They have a 3/3 flyer that you really have to stop. Then you're going to look for any reason you can to remove the counter. But let's say it's just like a near empty board, and your opponent's at 20. Like, I don't care that much. I'd rather stop a good card instead.
Okay. I think the question we have to face with all of these cards that aren't of the specific creature type that are being focused on in this set are, do they meet the bar that we need to run a card in our deck that isn't that creature type? And I think Glenalendra Guardian does that. So
my experience with the blue decks as well is that they're not quite as like you need 17. Like the decks that are way more like I have 15 elves and I want my 16th and 17th are, elves, goblins, and Kithkin have seemed to me to be a little more critical mass. Merfolk can be. There are Merfolk lords. You're definitely going to get into that scenario. But I had a pretty decent fairies Merfolk that was basically just mono blue, and as long as I hit the threshold of 1 to make some of my Merfolk cards work, like the Wanderwine Return, the uncommon 7-drop Convoke that bounces 2 things, or if you have a Merfolk out, you get 2 1/1s. You just need a Merfolk out and that works. The cost of this isn't, again, highly variable. It's not always going to be like, oh man, if you don't have if you have a non-elf in your deck, it's just unplayable. I haven't really found that to be the case.
Okay. So what do you like for it? I mean, I'm in the B range for sure. Are we getting up to B+, I guess, for Glenalendra Guardian?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I like B+ on Glenalendra Guardian. It's really strong.
Next is Oko Lorwyn Liege. This is 2 and a blue for a legendary Planeswalker Oko, of course, mythic rare. This one is a mix of the Planeswalker types. It has 2 activated abilities and a static. So it's 3 loyalty. Static ability is at the beginning of your first main phase, you may pay green. If you do, transform Oko. More on that in a second. The activated abilities are +2. Up to 1 target creature gains all creature types. And it notes that this effect doesn't end. So it just kind of changelings one of your things. For a big bump in loyalty, but again, we do look for ways to protect our Planeswalker, affect the board, and that doesn't really do that. The other is also a plus ability, and it is target creature gets -2, -0 until your next turn. So through their turn, it gets shrunk down. So there you go. There's a plus ability that helps protect your Planeswalker.
Yeah.
If you do pay the green to flip, he becomes Oko Shadowmoor Scion, which has 3 abilities in a static. The static is at the beginning of your first main phase, you may pay blue to transform him back. And the 3 abilities are all minuses on this side. That's kind of fun. The first one is -1, Mill 3 cards. You may put a permanent card from among them into your hand. Okay. -3, create 2 3/3 green elk creature tokens. And -6 is choose a creature type. You get an emblem with creatures you control of the chosen type, get +3/+3, and have vigilance and hexproof. Wow. So what's the play pattern? You play out Oko Lorwyn Liege, you +2 or +1, depending on what you want to do. Let's say you +1 to protect him. Then he doesn't die. Then on your turn, you pay G and you flip him. And if you have the full loyalty, you've got 4. So you can mill to grab cards, or if he's still at the full loyalty, you can make the 2 elks and have Oko stick around. If he takes a point of damage, you can just cash him in for 2 elks. That seems pretty strong.
Yeah, and I think the 2 elks are going to be like the most prized of the abilities here. Like that's really what you're looking to try to pull off.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't seem that hard because either it has 5 loyalty or 4 loyalty and you've shrunk a creature. And
yeah.
Easy
to cast.
Mostly how it's going to pan out, I think, is you're going to +1 it if they have a creature in play and +2 it if not, unless you have some sort of card that where giving a creature all types is just like incredible. Which could happen for sure.
Right. And then you're going to flip it. And basically if Oko has 3 loyalty, let's get those elks going. Yeah. Because that's a lot. I mean, you've only paid 3 mana for that, and it's only turn 4, and you've got the elks plus your mana for the turn to do whatever else you were going to do. That does seem very strong. What's the fail case here for Oko? You're just behind a bit, I guess.
Well, one fail case to get out in front of is you got to be playing blue-green.
You have to have green, yeah.
If you can't flip this card, then I don't think you're gonna really get much out of it.
Oh, right, because these abilities are not that great, actually.
Yeah, so that's the main thing. But assuming that, then I guess that if there's too much pressure and you can't flip it and do anything because the flip is all, like you said, all minuses, so it's kind of hard to do that. Also, Oko does have like the one burst basically where you're like play this. +1 it, next turn flip it, make elks. But if it survives, you're like, okay, next turn flip it, minor ability, next turn flip it back, probably can't make elks again, or just don't flip it back. You just keep it on the blue side for a few turns, I guess is actually what you end up doing.
Yeah.
So I think it's not clear to me exactly how often you get like a second go round, but the first one seems pretty good. Honestly, if you were at a blue-green deck, I would probably give this like a B+.
Yeah, like, that's what I was thinking too. I guess you're splashing, right? Because like, what's the blue-green deck?
Well, the blue-green would be like the 5-color deck. Like,
yeah, exactly. So you might just be
vivid deck.
Splashing. Okay, B+ for Oko Lorwyn Liege, assuming that you have access to green mana pretty consistently. Next is Champions of the Shoal. This is 3 and a blue for a 4/6 Merfolk Soldier at rare. And this one has as an additional cost to cast this spell, Behold a Merfolk and exile it clause. This one doesn't have flash though. It says whenever this creature enters or becomes tapped, tap up to 1 target creature and put a stun counter on it. Ooh. And when this creature leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to its owner's hand. So 4 mana, 4/6 Merfolk here that lock something down, but it carries that champion style cost that we talked about before.
Yeah. I mean, this card's awesome. Like this is again a build around just like all the champions. The champions are like one of the more, I would say severe build arounds, like, or more stringent, where you just can't play this card unless you have Merfolk. But actually that mono blue deck had this card, and I had like ultimately like 8 or 9 Merfolk counting changelings, and that was enough. You just need 1 for this. So again, it's not a critical mass kind of card. And it's really strong. You play this, lock down their biggest thing, and next turn attack and do it again. Also, it's when this is tapped, so you can convoke, you can just
do it
like,
twice.
I never had this, but you're like, play this, lock down your thing, then convoke something out, lock something else down. Sounds incredible.
Totally. And there's a bunch of cards in Merfolk that let you tap your other creatures. So if you have one of those, you can just do that double whammy. I mean, that's nasty. And you've got a freaking 4/6, and it encourages you to attack with it because that's the most straightforward way to get it tapped. I mean, that is awesome. And how in the world are they going to put together a block if you get to tap down one of their things on your turn, remember it's still tapped by the time it comes back to you, and then you turn your 4/6 sideways, like there's no way they're going to have a board state that's going to be able to block this thing. So now you got the ball rolling, and you can just keep turning it sideways and keeping whatever their best blocker is on lock. That's awesome. Again, it's a cost, right? The champion type thing is a real deal, and there will be some scenarios where you can't cast it, but when properly supported, awesome Champions of the Shoal. I mean, I would give it an A, assuming that you're merfolked
in the merfolk
up.
deck.
Mm-hmm. Next up
is where you want to be.
which is where you want to be in that case. Next up is Glenalendra's Answer. This is 2 blue for an instant at Mythic Rare. It says this spell can't be countered. And it says counter all spells your opponents control and all abilities your opponents control. Create a 1/1 blue and black fairy creature token with flying for each spell and ability countered this way.
So at a baseline,
is this a storm killer?
Well, yeah, it definitely can do that. But at a baseline, this counters one of their cards and makes a 1/1 flying. So it's kind of like a flying Mystic Snake, right? A 4-mana 1/1 flyer that counters a spell. That's okay.
Kind of interested, yeah.
That's not terrible. And if you ever nab 2, it seems like it'd be pretty gross.
Yeah, I wonder, the thing that my brain goes to are Eldrazi, right? Where you cast it and then a trigger goes on the stack. So they're both kind of sitting there. I'm sure that there's things on the battlefield that say when you cast a whatever, this trigger, so maybe you could get lucky and get 2 things out of it that way.
Yeah, I think that the most likely case is like there is when you cast a goblin, trigger this, and then they cast a goblin, and then you counter both, and you can make 2 1/1s. But honestly, I would probably play this. I would say this is probably like a B- just straight up, as it's a 2-for-1. I mean, a 1/1 flyer is about the minimum we would consider a card, but that is a card. I do think it counts.
Okay, yeah, B- for Glenalendra's Answer. Next up is Disruptor of Currents. This is 3 blue for a 3/3 Merfolk Wizard at Rare. It has Flash and Convoke. Boy, they are not going to see this one coming. It says, when this creature enters, return up to 1 other target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Luis, I have this in my current draft deck that I have yet to actually play a game with. I drafted it late last night in a bleary state, but I am excited for this one, to say the least. Disruptor
as well,
of
you
Currents
should
looks
be.
awesome.
This card's super sweet. Like, I would play this without Convoke and think it was good. 5 mana 3/3 and it bounces, and so give it Convoke. This card will be the last spell cast in a lot of games, because what will happen is they'll be like, all right, I'm going to make this attack, and then you're just like block, Disruptor of Currents after blocks, or I'm going to, on my turn, I'm just going to curve out and go like play a creature, play Disruptor on like turn 5, and it's just going to be a haymaker. So
Totally.
I think Disruptor of Currents is awesome.
Yeah. What grade would you give it? Does it reach the A range? A-? Yeah. A- for Disruptor of Currents. Next is...
Look, it's not a bomb in the sense that, like, I top decked a Disruptor of Currents and now they can't win. It's not a 5/5 flying lifelink dragon.
Right.
But the effect it's going to have on the game, as long as you have anything else going on, it's going to be really strong.
Definitely. And, it does get a little bump there for being good when you're behind. I mean, this is the type of card that can turn around a pretty gnarly board state pretty quickly. You get a 3/3 blocker, you take out their best attacker, and all of a sudden their board might not look, you're not quite as dead as you were a minute ago. And that really does matter. Next up is Harmonized Crescendo. This is 4 blue for an instant at Rare. It has Convoke. And it says, choose a creature type, draw a card for each permanent you control of that type. I mean, I kind of recoil from these. I know some people go, oh my God, I could draw 5 cards. And yeah, that is true. You definitely could. But man, what if you draw 2?
If you draw 2, you're pretty unhappy. If you draw 3, so here's kind of the question I have with this card: how much better is this than the common Convoke draw 3 discard 1?
Yeah, exactly. I would assume, like, on average, I would rather have the other one, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, this isn't instant as well, so you can like imagine drawing 4 end of turn. I think I would like this in Merfolk and not basically outside of Merfolk.
Exactly. And in one of those decks that comes together, where you're like, wow, I got 16 Merfolk here, then I'm in. I mean, because like you said, you just go, all right, I'm just going to take a turn here and I'm going to draw 5. Go, and that's very difficult to beat if you set it up properly. So the upside is definitely present, but I think I would actually give the build around tag, even though we haven't been doing that for ones that are just like, have a bunch of a certain creature type. This one, you really need it. Like I don't think I would fuss around, if I had 10 of a creature. I think I'd rather have the common.
Yeah.
I do see a dream there though of, drawing 5 or 6 or doing something stupid. So I'd give this a build around and I'd give it like a B-, something like that. Yeah. B range, like it does have that upside.
Games that this card is really good where you cast it end of their turn and you draw 5 cards. Like that doesn't sound completely unrealistic. But
not at all. But when you see it in a draft, it's pack 1, pick 1, right? You're like, well,
yeah, I just don't think you're supposed to be slamming there, Right.
Next is Mirror Form. This is 4 blue for an instant at Mythic Rare. It says each non-land permanent you control becomes a copy of target non-aura permanent. Just ignore that part. But so each non-land permanent you control becomes a copy of something.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be your thing. It can be their thing.
That's a big deal.
I think this card is probably really good. I think
that is an awesome card.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit situational, of course. You do need a kind of big board for it to be good, but I feel like you'll get there a decent amount of the time with this. It's a little too early to tell, but my sense is that the board stalls are a little more prevalent in this set than in others. Part of it is like you're just incentivized to put all these Kithkin and Elves and Goblins in your deck, and you just, I think, end up in a spot where both players just kind of have a lot of creatures in their deck that don't necessarily fly.
Right.
And that's kind of how you get there, And,
this is the set that Mirror Form should be good in. This is one where I want to try it. Like this is not a prove it for me. This is I'm going to try to prove it card. I would not be shocked if by the end of the set we've discovered that Mirror Form just isn't that good. It's a little too conditional. It relies too heavily on things that are out of your control or something like that. But I also wouldn't be surprised at all if it's like this thing slams the door on many, many games. I mean, also the amount of just like absurd, ridiculous stupidity that you could pull off with something like this is amazing. Right? Like there are some, think about any card that says like, when this attacks, you get something, right? It's like, well, I'll make 6 things like that and turn all of them sideways. It's like, there's definitely a high upside for a card like Mirror Form. I want to try.
I agree with everything, except I actually will be surprised if this isn't good. I think it is a good card. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm saying I would not be surprised either way. Yeah. These are very difficult to give a grade to start with, but I'm going to draft it at like the B level to start with to see where it's at.
That's kind of where I'm at too.
And I'll give up some win percent for the cause. Next up is Sunderflock. Oh boy, that might be a tricky one to say on coverage. This is 7 blue for a 5/5 elemental at rare. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest mana value among elementals you control. And this is an elemental. It has flying. And it says when it enters, if you cast it, return all non-elemental creatures to their owner's hands.
Yeah, this card is ridiculous.
That's insanity. I have this, by the way, in that deck, too. I have Disruptor of Currents and Sunderflock.
It starts at 9, and it is trivial to cast this for 5 mana. You just need like a 4/3 elemental. And then you play this and bounce a bunch of their creatures, and you have a 5/5 flyer.
And it's based off of mana value, right?
Yeah.
So even easier.
Yeah, I mean it's not a difficult card to get to work.
Yeah.
And it's very powerful when it does work. So
I'm in.
That's a dub. That's a dub for me.
Yeah. I mean, I like in the Elementals deck, since we've kind of conceded that the Elementals deck feels a little different than like the Kithkin Goblin Elves style of decks. But in that deck, I mean, this is just an easy A, right? Like trivially easy.
Unquestionable.
Yeah. All right. That moves us to black. Our first black card is called Dawnhand Dissident. It is black for a 1/2 elf warlock at rare. And it has a few activated abilities. The first one is tap Blight 1, Surveil 1. And the other one is tap Blight 2, exile target card from a graveyard. And it says during your turn, you may cast creature spells from among cards you own exiled with this creature by removing 3 counters from among creatures you control in addition to paying other costs. It's pretty cool, man. That's a cool card.
Yeah, and a very strong one.
Yeah. So you can do the Blight 1, Surveil 1 on your own on Dawnhand Dissident and still have it survive. So that's nice. You kind of get a freebie, but really, it has 1 counter, and then ideally you Blight 2 and hopefully hit something, and then they act as if it's a cost to remove these counters, but really it's a benefit to you. The only cost is that they need to exist so that you can pay it.
Yeah, so the trick with this card is you do need a 3 toughness creature ultimately to have it work. And so it can eat the Blight 1 counter easily, and you surveil, and then you get a 3/3 out, and you Blight 2 and exile a card from your graveyard. Because note, you can only cast cards that you exiled from your graveyard. You can't steal their stuff.
Oh, okay.
But once you have that, you just immediately do this. You can cast cards with this as early as like turn 4 or 3, depending on when you can play a 3 toughness creature.
And you can spread these out. Like you can put 1 counter on this, 1 on a 2/2, 1 on another 2/2, and just remove those 3 counters.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where they are or if the counters came from this. I mean,
and you just reload your whole board like that.
I want to give this an A-. I've had it in 2 decks so far, and the reason I say that is it's a 1-mana card that your opponent has to kill. If they don't kill this card, then you are going to win the game. I had a game where I had the white-black hybrid flyer that it makes creature lose all abilities, then get flying, first strike, and lifelink. It's a really cool card, very good. And I had made a 4/4 flying, first strike, lifelink, and I had that out plus Dawnhand Dissident, and they killed the 4/4 because they were going to die to it. And I was like, I think they needed to kill the Dissident because I just got all my stuff back over the course of the game.
Wild.
It's just a messed up card.
Yeah, and like you said, for 1 mana, a card that just demands to be killed that's a big, big bonus. A?
I like A- for Dawnhand Dissident.
Okay. Yeah, and
really the only requirement is that you have a 3 toughness creature to eat some of the buffs.
Or 2 other 2 toughness creatures, right?
Or two other 2 toughness creatures, and then you take longer,
And you can't exile stuff from their yard. You just can't buy those back. But if you're disrupting something if you're playing like Elves Mirror or whatever, you may want to nab some of their cards just to screw them up, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Next is Moon Shadow. Same cost, just 1 black mana. This one's a 7/7. It's an elemental and it's mythic. It has menace. And as you might have guessed, it does come with -1/-1 counters on it. This one comes with 6 of them. And it says whenever 1 or more permanent cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, while this card has a -1/-1 counter on it, remove a -1/-1 counter from this creature. So like if you mill yourself, if a creature dies, then this thing will lose a counter per interaction, each time that happens.
In Cube, if you sack a fetch land.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I'm actually going to play this card in Cube, but it is interesting to think about for sure.
Yeah, it feels like there's not an archetype for it, but it is cool. So, like, when does this start to get good is the question. Because a 1-mana, 1/1 menace is like, it's, not ignorable, I guess. 2/2, it's already, kind of catching my eye. And when it gets to 3, it's like you put 1 mana into a 3/3 menace. Like that's already pretty good. Where's that line for you, and how easy do you think it is to get these cards off of here?
I think if you had a creature heavy deck, I would basically always play this card. Like, I think that it does not take that much to have this card work. I feel like
tokens dying does trigger this, right?
No, permanent cards.
Cards.
But the upside is if milling does work and discarding does work.
Okay. Discard, mill, and cards dying all trigger it. Yeah. I think that the temptation is like, well, how am I going to get this to 7/7? And it's like, you don't really need to. Like, especially if even just 2/2.
You just need 2 things to die, and then it's fine. You got your money's worth, and it's gonna sit there and play and get bigger and bigger. So
totally.
I like B for Moonshadow. It doesn't really look to me like it takes much work. It's gonna be better in a Goblins deck than it will be in black-white controlling deck that has more removal spells or whatever.
Yeah, where since they're doing blighting on their own stuff a bunch, like things will just be dying, and they kind of want that to happen. Do you say B for Moonshadow?
Yeah, I like B.
Yeah. Next is Bitter Bloom Bearer. This is black for a 1/1 fairy rogue at Mythic Rare. It has both flash and flying, and it says at the beginning of your upkeep, you may lose one life. Sorry, not may. You lose one life and create a 1/1 blue and black fairy creature token with flying. This is a callback to Bitter Blossom.
So if you play this card in the first couple of turns of the game, I imagine you will win pretty easily.
Right.
It's just a very strong card. I mean, I can imagine if your opponent plays this on turn 2 and you can't kill it, you just lose the game. It's not going to be remotely close.
Definitely.
It does become a kind of mediocre draw later. Like that's something to be aware of, that like later in the game, like your life total's lower and you might not really be able to swing this card. And it might not have a huge impact right away either, because like you draw it, it doesn't make anything right away. You then play it, and then it makes 1/1/1. So I like Bitter Bloom Bear. It's going to get a high grade. The question is, I think probably B+ is probably where I'd land.
I think
on
that's
it.
Good. Yeah. Double black.
Slightly less than A.
Yeah, slightly less than A. We respect the downside, which is why we kind of chuckled when I misspoke and said may, because it's like that's kind of the whole ball game with a card like this. But the upside is tremendous. Like Louis said, if you get it on turn 2, your win percentage skyrockets. And if they don't deal with it, you are going to win that game pretty easily. Next, one of my early favorites, Luis. I had 2 of these in my very first draft deck of the format, and it is absurd. It's Grub Storied Matriarch. This is 2 and a black for a 2/1 legendary goblin warlock at rare with menace. And whenever this creature enters and you've seen this template before, transforms into this front-facing side of it, you return up to 1 target goblin card from your graveyard to your hand. And then at the beginning of your first main phase, you can pay red to transform it into Grub Notorious Ante, which is a 2/1 menace as well. And whenever Grub attacks, you may blight 1. If you do, create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of the blighted creature, except it has at the beginning of the end step, sacrifice this token. And then, of course, at the beginning of your first main phase, you can pay black to transform it back into Grub Storied Matriarch. This card was completely stupid, Luis. Absolutely ridiculous Magic card. It had a profound impact every time I played it, and the second one always won the game.
I can imagine that the way you were mostly playing this was just it sitting there and then just flipping back and forth to raise dead stuff, or did you use the minus the blight ability?
I used the blight ability too, because so many of the goblins have ETBs that like re-blight and get stuff into the yard. Like the only stop thing on this is that you need to get something in the yard so that you can fully take advantage, and blight helps that happen. So I was doing all the things, and then black and red tends to have good removal. My deck did. So the menace really adds up on the other side. It's on both sides, but particularly on the other side, it really had a big impact because, you kill one blocker and now they may not have the ability to block Grub at all. I had a really good deck. I mean, it was my first draft deck, so it's like kind of in that really early stage of the format where you're not going to get decks like that later. But man, in the full-on Goblins deck, Grub Storied Matriarch was stupid. Like, really just a broken card.
I mean, this looks like an A- to me.
Yeah, that's how it played.
Because you're 3-mana, 2/1 Eternal Witness. You just play this and immediately get a Goblin.
Yes.
And then you can flip it and start to like attack with Menace and make a token copy, and then you flip it back. Like, it just feels like it kind of gets up to some really good stuff.
It does. So yeah, A- for Grub Storied Matriarch. Next is Morn Song Aria. This is 1 black for a legendary enchantment at rare. Players can't draw cards or gain life. And it says, at the beginning of each player's draw step, that player loses 3 life, searches their library for a card, puts it into their hand, and then shuffles. What? No way. No. I don't want to be the one to pay the 3 mana and the enchantment for my opponent to then just go demonic tutor whatever they need to win the game the next turn.
Yeah, this looks awful. I would give an F to Mornsong Aria. If your deck is that much better than theirs, maybe it works out. But I don't think that's
just
really
draw your cards then and beat them with them. Next is Taster of Wares. This is 2 and a black for a 3/2 Goblin Warlock at rare. It says when this creature enters, target opponent reveals X cards from their hand, where X is the number of goblins you control. You choose one of those cards. That player exiles it. If an instant or sorcery card is exiled this way, you may cast it for as long as you control this creature, and mana of any type can be spent to cast that spell. Wow, that's nice.
Yeah, so it's like no matter what exiles a card.
You get a card, yeah.
And it's never coming back. Like, so it's already, even just by itself, unless they had a removal in response, which they actually would stop it. But if you play this by itself, they just exile their worst card. As the number of goblins goes up, the more they're going to be forced to exile an instant or sorcery. And then as long as this sticks around, you can cast it. So it's a cool card. They never get the card back, so you're always up. So like, again, that's like a B. 3 mana, 3/2, they exile their worst card would be totally fine card. And it's much better than that because you will eventually be able to force them to reveal enough cards that you take a better card. And if you ever cast the card off this, like in the late game, you play this on turn 6 with 3 goblins in play, it sounds like it's going to be incredible.
Yeah, that is wild. Is it like a B plus? Is it an A minus? I mean, this is a lot of value.
Probably a B plus would be where I would land.
I guess, you do have to control the creature to be able to cast the instant or sorcery, right? So like, they can limit it to a 2-for-1 if they can find removal, although you probably took it from them.
Minimum 2-for-1, sometimes 3-for-1 sounds pretty good to me.
Nuts, yeah. Next up is Twilight Diviner. This is 2 and a black for a 3/3 Elf Cleric at rare. When this creature enters, surveil 2. So remember, this is in Elves where they do want stuff in the graveyard, so that's already pretty good. And whenever one or more other creatures you control enter, if they entered or were cast from a graveyard, create a token that's a copy of one of them. This ability triggers only once each turn.
It was so sad. I had an elf deck with 2 of these and I had no ways to trigger it. I didn't have any ways to get creatures back. But
what is there? There's the 5 mana buyback, right?
Yeah,
that gets a creature back tapped or not.
Yeah, there are a couple things. There's also like the Wretched Wretch if it comes back, or anything that would have persist.
So there's a few things.
Yeah, and mostly this is a 3 mana 3/3 surveil too, which is that's not terrible. Like,
no.
I think the reason I played both these cards in my deck. You're going to play 3 mana 3/3 surveil 2 elf basically all the time in your elf deck.
Yeah, for sure.
So
B.
So I would give B to Twilight Diviner, and don't get too hung up on the trying to make something out of the ability. Obviously, if it comes together, it is great though.
Champion of the Weird is next. This is 3 and a black for a 5/5 Goblin Berserker at rare. It says, as an additional cost to cast this spell, behold a goblin and exile it. And it says it has a couple of abilities here. First one is pay 1 life and blight 2. And it says target opponent blights 2. Activate only as a sorcery. You're forcing your opponent to blight 2. That's amazing. And then it has, when this creature leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to its owner's hand. So that's the normal clause. But that middle ability doesn't cost mana. Like,
yeah, it costs you life and blighting.
Yeah, but you can kind of race to the bottom to get your opponent's board whittled down to something manageable.
Yeah, no, it's a powerful ability. You do have, obviously, the championing a goblin. It can be a cost, but I think goblins of all the creature types does a pretty good job of letting you champion a creature with an ETB. There's just like a lot of goblins with ETBs.
I have a potentially dumb question, but can I blight 2 3 times onto the Champion of the Weird?
Yes, because it can get -2, -2, then -2, -2, then the last one -2, -2.
I don't have to because it's a cost. I don't have to actually put the 2 counters on, right? Like,
no.
Okay.
You are fulfilling the cost of blighting 2 by placing 2 counters on it, even if it dies.
Okay.
But The thing about that is blight is part of the cost, so you will have to pay those up front in order to have this happen. Their blight does add up nicely. The blight 2 is pretty strong. Like they can't stash counters too long on that. Like you will be able to kind of kill both boards a decent amount of the time you play this card.
I think so too. And the reason I was asking is you could find yourself in a spot where you play the champion and you just say, okay, I'm going to pay 3 life. You have to distribute, 2 chunks of 2/1/1 counters. Yes. And I'll even just kill my champion of the weird, but you get the card back that it championed and you've probably decimated your opponent's board. And I'm talking about like a bad case scenario where you don't have better places to put your blight 2 than your freshly cast 5/5, So I like that. There's kind of a lot to like, and that's a really interesting design too. I'm curious. I haven't played with her again, so I'm curious to see how this one plays out, but I'm interested.
I would probably give Champion of the Weird probably like a B+ in Goblins.
Yeah. Because there's no way for this to like horribly backfire on you, right? Like your opponent isn't going to be like, sweet, I get to blight 2 3 times or twice or once or any, they're just losing their board slowly. Or
no, and the fact that you get to control when it happens or not means like I would imagine you unless you're making really bad decisions, you should be fine.
Yeah, totally. Okay, that's cool. Next up is Gloom Ripper. This is 3 black for a 4/4 elf assassinate rare. It says when this creature enters, target creature you control gets +X/+0 until end of turn, and up to 1 target creature an opponent controls gets -0/-X until end of turn. This is a big number, where X is the number of elves you control plus the number of elf cards in your graveyard.
Yeah, the cards in your graveyard really goes a long way on this because you just know this is going to be like for 5+ most of the time, but in the middle of the game.
God, you get to slam with something with trample or lifelink, ideally flying, something like that. But even then, if you just have a 1/1, now it's a 5/1 or a 4/1, and you kill something on the other side. That is, this is why we've been talking about, the need to really commit to these creature types, right? Like a Gloom Ripper in your deck, that has 13 or 15 elves or whatever is just a certified bomb. And a Gloom Ripper in a deck that has 6 or 7 elves is like probably something you're going to play, but, a far cry from what it could be. In elves, I mean, that just seems like an A to me, like just the 2 for 1, and then you get this extra icing on the cake by pumping up one of your creatures too.
Yeah, I think that I would just give this an A in elves.
Bloodline Bidding is 6 black for a sorcery at rare. It has Convoke, and it says choose a creature type. Return all creature cards of the chosen type from your graveyard to the battlefield.
I had this in a Goblins deck, and it was incredibly good.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you did need to do a little bit of work to make it happen, but it was not.
I guess my brain is thinking in terms of like my creatures are either going to be on the graveyard or in the graveyard or on the battlefield, kind of. Like, so meaning that if they're in the graveyard, they can't convoke, and if they're on the battlefield, then they're not in the graveyard.
Yeah, but
like
you
how
don't
many?
need that.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time that this would be good, how much cheaper do you need to cast it in order to have it work? And
okay.
I think the answer's
5
not that.
Mana is good for
5
this.
or 6 mana. Like, it's not like you need this to go on turn 4, right? So
totally.
I think that.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And also, you're playing goblins. Imagine you just had 2 goblin tokens lying around, or you just drew one of the cards that makes a goblin token.
Totally. So basically, the Convoke is more just to take the edge off of looking down at an 8 mana spell and being like, okay, I can't ever cast this, and say like, what if you could? Not to take it from 8 to 2. But also, like, I think elves would also really make good use of this. They have a bunch of self-mill. You can imagine just getting back 7 elves with this card. So I would say Bloodline Bidding is a build around A-. I mean, what it asks you to do is what you already want to do. Get as many goblins or elves as you can and put them in your deck. I would not play this in fairies, and I wouldn't try to play it in black-white very often. But in specifically elves and goblins, this looks like an A. Yeah.
Like, can you just cast this card?
Definitely. Agreed. Yeah. It's just the mental shift of not, I'm trying to take this to 8 mana down into 3 mana. It's just take it into something that I can actually resolve, and that's not that high of a ceiling. So elves, it's like an A, and I think in goblins it's probably an A minus because it's a little less self-mill stuff. Sweet card too. Red. Our first red card is called End Blaze Epiphany. It is red X for an instant at rare, and it says it deals X damage to target creature. When that creature dies this turn, exile a number of cards from the top of your library equal to its power. Then choose a card exiled this way. Until the end of your next turn, you may play that card.
So it's a 2-for-1. You just have to kill their thing first. And then the one thing that is note is it does exile and it doesn't get reshuffled. So I did have a situation late game where I ended up still killing their big creature, but it was like, oh, this is going to exile 5 cards off the top of my deck.
What?
I'm going to play one of them.
They don't shuffle in the other cards.
No.
Best mill spell ever? It's an instant that kills a creature and mills them for X? That's amazing.
Oh, no, it mills you.
Oh, it mills you.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Is that
oh god, worst mill spell ever.
Yeah, but I think it still works out fine. It just
your library. Yeah, so you just have to be a little careful, but
which also like isn't even that bad that it's top of your library because it's you do typically a card from your deck is better than a card from their deck just because you especially in like a format like this.
Because because you listen to Limited Resources podcast.
Exactly.
Right. On average, your deck's going to be better than the average deck you face, but also, of course, for castability. I more mean
your elementals deck is going to want elementals, not to take a card out of a Kithkin deck.
Right, and you can cast it that way too. Okay, so you have to be just a little bit careful of that part. Oh man, that would have been sweet if you're just like deck damaging them. This card does seem super strong. How do you view it as a removal spell? Just like red X instant does that much damage?
It's red X instant do that much damage is a little below what we want because you're basically not only always paying more than they are in order to kill their creature. You also sometimes you just don't have enough mana. Like you're if you want to kill a 4/4, it costs 5 mana. But you give me a card and all is forgiven. Yeah. And then I think this card's a B+ just because you're just going to be happy playing this.
I like B+ for Endblaze Epiphany as well. Next is Ashleen Rekindled. This is 1 and a red for a 1/3 legendary elemental sorcerer at rare. And this is the flip version for elementals. It says, whenever this creature enters or transforms into this front face of it, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Okay. At the beginning of your first main phase, you may pay blue. If you do, it transforms into Ashling Rhymebound, which is a 1/3 that says whenever this creature transforms into Ashling Rhymebound, and at the beginning of your first main phase, add 2 mana of any one color. Spend this mana only to cast spells with mana value 4 or greater. And of course, at the beginning of your first main phase, you can transform it back for red into Ashling Rekindled and do the rummage again. A little less exciting, right?
Yeah, this is not so much a bomb, kind of like some of the other cards we've seen in the cycle. But 2 mana, 1/3, you get to rummage, then you flip it and it turns into Soul Ring. And I had this in a blue-red deck where I just kind of kept it on the blue side most of the time because it's just like, all right, I'm adding 2 mana a turn, and as long as I have expensive spells to play, which is usually not that difficult to find. And then if you run out of stuff to do, you flip it back and you start rummaging. It's a B.
It does seem awesome.
You'll happily play this in blue-red. You're never going to cut it in blue-red. It's going to be even a reasonably early pick in blue-red, but it's not a bomb.
Right. Does this also fit into the multicolored thing? Called it can add mana of any color.
If you're
you need blue and red to get it to that point.
If you're in the base red blue version of that deck, then yeah, I think this totally makes sense.
What do you want to give it?
I'll give it a B.
B for Ashling Rekindled.
Yeah, I think it's a fine card, but nothing I'm like, I lose my mind for.
The other ones have been up in the B+, A- range. Next is Hexing Squelcher. This is 1 and a red for a 2/2 Goblin Sorcerer at rare. It says it can't be countered, and it has Ward, pay 2 life, and spells you control can't be countered, and other creatures you control have Ward, pay 2 life. This card seems to be more annoying than good.
Well, I think it adds up nicely in the Goblins deck because it seems to me that the Goblins deck gets a lot of mileage out of like chip damage between like Bulgurt shenanigans, lasting tar fire cards like this. And so when you play a Hexing Squelcher, first of all, it can't be countered. Not that that's a big deal. But when you play this, okay, your opponent's like, well, I don't really want to use a removal spell on that. But then if they use a removal spell on your other thing, they have to pay 2 life. So they then have to decide again, okay, am I going to kill the Squelcher? No, I still don't want to do that. All right, I guess I'll pay 2 more life to kill a different thing. So they're either going to have to pay 2 life and use a removal to just nip this in the bud, or just sign up to pay 6 life to this card, maybe more. That seems totally fine. It's a 2 mana goblin on top of it. So I'm in for Hexing Squelcher. This card has seemed pretty good to me. Okay,
yeah, I guess the argument against is just that it is just a 2 mana 2/2. Like it on the board, it's fairly ignorable. You know, for example, if you were, let's say you're playing against Kithkin and they're not as worried about killing your stuff, they're more worried about like building out a big board.
Kithkin's the exact deck that cares the least about this, I would imagine.
So there's something there, but you're right. And it is, you know, a goblin that costs 2 mana, like you said. So that, you know, is a bar in and of itself. What do you want to give it? Like, is it a C?
No, I would give it a B-.
Okay. You think it's annoying enough to actually affect outcome?
You're just not paying that much of a cost because it's a 2 mana 2/2 goblin, and then it is just going to make your opponent's life a little harder and do enough damage. But did you know that it
can't be countered?
It certainly cannot be countered. That much is true.
All right, I'll go C+ for Hexing Squelcher. Next up is Scuzzback Scrounger. This is 1 in a red for a 3/2 Goblin Warrior at rare. It says, at the beginning of your first main phase, you may blight 1. If you do, create a treasure token. That's pretty high leverage. It's also a 2 mana 3/2. Yeah.
It's a 2 mana 3/2 that you can immediately just blight this to get a treasure, which is not a bad exchange. And that lets you accelerate out something big enough that you can then blight that and get another one.
Dude, that's, you know, the times when you play this on 2 and then turn 3, you make the treasure, like your opponent's in trouble. Like that means you're slamming a 4 like right now.
So you mean the times when you cast this?
I mean, I guess, I'm thinking of it in, like, if this is your first play and it's a 2 mana 3/2, you may just want to turn it sideways. Like that's a lot of damage if your opponent hasn't done anything.
Completely depend on your curve, right?
But but no, I think your scenario is the more likely one, which is that you just kind of go for it and make a bunch of tokens and just kind of spew your hand onto the battlefield.
Yeah.
I like B+ for Scuzzback. Yeah. Scrounger. That's really powerful.
Trying this one in cube too.
I like that. Yeah, that's cool. Next is Meek Attack. This is 2 in a red for an enchantment. It's mythic. And it says...
You see the joke though?
No.
Okay, well, read the card. You'll get it.
You can pay 1 in a red. This is all it does. And you may put a creature card with total power and toughness 5 or less from your hand onto the battlefield. That creature gains haste. At the beginning, I get it now. At the beginning of your next end step, sacrifice that creature. That's really funny.
Yeah, Meek Attack.
I went from not getting it to really liking that.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah. The problem is I pronounced it differently. You know, I said Meek Attack rather than Meek Attack. So it's power or toughness, or power and toughness. Total has to be 5 or less.
Yeah, so it is small stuff. This just looks like an F. I don't really understand. Yeah. It's also, they didn't the cowards. They made it 2 mana to activate. They didn't even make it 1 mana. Like
totally.
they're just like no. We're not going to let you.
This can't get out of hand. Next is Champion of, it's F by the way for Meek Attack. Next is Champion of the Path. It's 3 in a red for a 7/3 elemental sorcerer. It's rare. It says as an additional cost to cast it, behold an elemental and exile it. And whenever another elemental you control enters, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. Well, that's powerful. And when this creature leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to its owner's hand. This feels a little sketchy.
Yeah, I don't...
3 toughness, you need other elementals to hit to make it good.
I mean, to give you some perspective, I cut this from an elementals deck, and today me and Chion were talking. You actually could have seen that if you didn't ignore the group chat.
Sorry, I was driving.
You can do both. Come on, what's it? He was also cutting it from an elementals deck. So we're not talking payoffs here that are comparable to some of the other payoffs that we've seen.
One of the concepts we talk about on the show a lot is setup cost. And this has kind of two big hurdles. First, the champion thing. And then you also need to cast Resolve and have other elementals hit the battlefield, preferably with some amount of power. And remember, it's only going to the opponent, right? If this was to a target, okay, fine, we're in business, right? The next creature you cast gives you that big payoff for the setup, but this one doesn't have that. And then the last knock on it is the 3 toughness does leave it a little more exposed than maybe you would hope. Yeah, I mean, C minus.
Yeah, I think I would just call it a C. It's clearly a powerful card. If your opponent has this in play, you're going to be a little scared. But a 7/3 isn't great stats, like you said. And then what if they untap and they just don't have an elemental to play?
Right. Ugh.
And if they do, and let's say you're at 20 and they play this, and then next turn they play an elemental and deal 4 to you, and they can't attack with this. Look, I'm not saying you're going to sit there and just watch this thing, kind of deal damage to you, but compare this with Champions of the Shoal, like the Merfolk one.
Right.
You die at that card.
Ludicrous.
Or the Kithkin one. Like we're not talking about the similar things here.
Right. Next up is Goliath Daydreamer. This is 2 red for a 4/4 giant wizard at rare. It says, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand, exile that card with a dream counter on it instead of putting it into your graveyard as it resolves. And whenever this creature attacks, you may cast a spell from among cards you own in exile with dream counters on them without paying their mana cost.
Yeah, really strong card. I had 2 of them in one of my first decks, and they were incredible.
So you just play one main phase, get the effect from it, and then just turn this thing sideways.
I mean, you cast this on turn 4, and if they don't kill it, they lose the game, basically, because your next turn, you're like...
You just double any?
Cast a removal spell, attack, cast a removal spell again. Like what, there's not a whole lot of places to go from there for that it work out well for them.
Right. So this one is very much firmly putting us in that decision point of, can I fit this in? Right, a giant wizard in my whatever goblins deck or something, and it sounds like right. This does meet that threshold of just raw power level that it doesn't have to be the creature type to make the cut.
Yeah.
Okay. And is it a B plus?
I would give it a B plus. Like the main thing is if they kill it before it attacks, obviously you're just not going to end up getting good value out of it. But I would say for the most part, this card is just going to deliver. Man,
and it's a 4/4. That's tough to kill. Next is Lava Leaper. This is 3 and a red for a 4/4 elemental, and it's rare. It says all creatures have haste, like old school style. All creatures have haste, and whenever a player taps a basic land for mana, that player adds 1 mana of any type that land produced. Oh my god.
Is there
is it Concordant Crossroads plus?
Yeah, I was going to ask, is there a rating worse than F? Because that's this. You know what happens when you cast this card? You just lose the game. You spend 4 mana and cast this, they untap, they're like, all right, I have 8 mana, play 2 creatures, then kill that, or whatever.
Yes, exactly.
After attacking you.
Right, with my now haste creatures, by the way. We'll go F on Lava Leaper. Next is Collective Inferno. This is 3 red for an enchantment at rare. It has Convoke, and it says, as this enchantment enters, choose a creature type, double all damage that sources you control of the chosen type would deal. But unlike in the last set, it's a sorcery speed enchantment.
Yeah.
Double.
The fact that it doesn't give toughness really, really is a big deal.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think that Collective Inferno looks mostly pretty bad. I guess you're going to play this and make all your goblins deal double damage.
Just feels like a goblin card.
This looks like a D. I don't know. It just seems kind of hard to set up. It doesn't seem that good to me.
I agree. No fallback plan. The Convoke is nice, but these type of spells, the problem with them isn't that they cost 5 mana, right? It's other scenarios.
And of all things, do you want to tap your creatures before casting
the ones that are supposed to be doing that damage. Next up is Soul Immolation. This is 3 red for a sorcery. It's mythic rare. It says, as an additional cost to cast this spell, Blight X. X can't be greater than the greatest toughness among creatures you control. It says, Soul Immolation deals X damage to each opponent and each creature they control. Oh, wow.
I think this card is really good, but it does take some real setup.
It really does. So you're losing your highest toughness creature probably, or at least, shrinking it.
No, because you blight equal to your highest toughness, but you can still put all the counters on your lowest toughness.
Oh, the limit isn't. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird,
just
right? Sets the number, but you can just throw it on a 1/1.
Right. So if you have a 4 toughness creature in play, like your gold, you blight 4, and then you put all the counters on your 1/1, and you deal 4 to your opponent and all their creatures.
And just to be clear, what Luis and I are doing right now is we're very enticed by that last line of text. Oh, yeah. Wipe out your opponent's board is one of the most impactful things you can do in a game of limited. So that we're just trying to reverse engineer. Does this actually work in game? What's the setup? And is the juice worth the squeeze? And because this is about the best juice you can get your hands on when it comes to limited, wiping out one-sided board wipe.
Yeah, I suspect it is good, but I don't know.
I mean, it does seem very difficult in goblins, right? They're not known for their toughness. And you do need something on the board with, I would say at least 3 toughness would be kind of in that it's pretty consistently a board sweep territory. 4 and above, you're totally good. 2 will take care of some board states. So, if that ends up being good enough, then it's kind of just green light on Soul Immolation, right? Because you're kind of always going to have that regardless. I'm thinking, of course, about the Elementals deck here, right? Because that actually does have some creatures with higher toughness. This is a really interesting design to cap it based on that.
Yeah. I'm going to say D on Collective Inferno, but I could see, I got missed. I'm going to say build around on Soul Immolation, but if you have the highest toughness creature, if you can reliably do it for 3, you're going to be in great shape.
I agree.
Like that's the key. If it's 2, I don't think you're gonna like the results.
I think you wouldn't actually run it if you knew that you were capped at 2. I think you would run it basically all the time if it was 3, and if you ever get 4 or above, it's just a game ender.
Yeah, I had it in a 5-color deck, and it was awkward though powerful. So I didn't get like a
So what grade would you give it? Let's say you can hit the 3, you feel pretty comfortable. I think it's
a B if you can get 3 a good amount of the time.
Yeah, and if you can do 4,
this is also going to be one of the cards that varies pretty wildly based on matchups.
Right.
You play this against Kithkin, Goblins, and Elves, you're feeling pretty good.
Yep.
You play this against Elementals or like the 5-color deck, a lot less likely to be good,
Yeah, that's very true. And you are losing your creature. Like, you have to lose something to make this work too. So, yeah, I'm with you. A lot of setup there, but man, that upside is good. One other, this is this is like a very advanced play around it, but we often say that, you should use your instant speed removal on your turn. If you know you're going to kill the thing anyway.
This is a punish, all right.
This is like, I could have killed that because you can't do it after. Last red card is called Spinerock Tyrant. This is 3 red for a 6/6 flying dragon. And mythic rare, it has Wither, which once again means that it deals damage to creatures in the form of -1/-1 counters. In other words, its damage kind of sticks with the creature. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell with a single target, you may copy it. If you do, those spells gain Wither, so that's for burn spells, and you may choose new targets for the copy. Dang. They still know how to make a dragon. Take the gloves off and just push it to the ceiling.
I think that this card is a little bit like the black-white flip card where The vast majority of what you're talking about here is just it's a 6/6 flying.
Right.
Wither is almost irrelevant because
Right.
I mean, how's that even gonna do anything? Because it's a 6/6. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
And if you have spells to play, you will put this card in your deck to play those spells. But I generally don't think that you need that in order for this to be good.
Yeah. Obviously primed for burn spells as it gives them wither and turns them into, really powerful burn spells. But I mean, this doesn't specify that it has to be like a removal spell, right? Like you could also just pump spell and copy it.
If you had target player draws 2 cards, you could copy it.
Yeah,
and they'd have wither.
Yeah, and it would have wither as well. Well, I like A for Spine Rock Tyrant just based on raw power. Kind of boring in its power level. You know what I mean? Like it's so good that you just go, yeah, it's an A.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I do kind of like that these 5 mana big flyers are still just good. And I think they will be good.
I do too.
Because that is something that is fun.
You know what this card needed, Luis? Death Touch. Got to have Death Touch with your 6/6 Wither flyer.
Yeah,
just stack up all the things that don't really matter. Next is Celestial Reunion. This is our first green card, and it is X and a green for a sorcery at Mythic Rare. And it says, as an additional cost to cast this spell, you may choose a creature type and behold 2 creatures of that type. That's a may. Okay. Search your library for a creature card with mana value X or less, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Then shuffle. If this spell's additional cost was paid and the revealed card is the chosen type, put that card onto the battlefield instead of putting it into your hand. Wow, really, really clean template here.
It's exactly what when we first saw the card. You mean the Magic players here in Denver? That's exactly what we're saying. Is like this.
What?
It's tough because they're trying to they have to template it so it does the thing they say, but this is a tough one. So this is, if you do some work, a Green Sun Zenith, you can get anything into play for green and X, but you just have to have 2 of that type already in play. If you don't, you're casting this as a really bad tutor. Like you don't want to be doing that.
So, okay. So if you have 1 in play, 1 in your hand, you're good to go. 2 in hand, 2 in play, like you're good to go if you've got that.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is, I guess, like a primarily elves thing.
I would imagine that elves, are a pretty big part of this. I don't think Kithkin are going to want to have this ability.
I don't feel like that either.
Because, like, you can still get a good Kithkin, so I guess it's not like, impossible to imagine. But yeah, I would say for the most part, this looks like an elves card. If I had a lot of elves and I had some good elves to get, you have John Morcant and you can go tutor up for 5 mana. Like that is pretty good.
It is. The setup cost of Beholding 2 is very real.
It's real, but it's not impossible in this.
Not at all. Not at all. I give Celestial Reunion like a pretty mediocre grade, I think.
The classic build around C.
Build around C for Celestial Reunion. Next is, Bloom Tender. This is 1 and a green for an elf druid. This time it's mythic. It has Vivid, tap for each color among permanents you control, add 1 mana of that color, and it's a 1/1. I like it how it has a semi-keyword now. Good for you, Bloom Tender.
Yes, it kind of graduated into a keyword. Mm-hmm. This is a B. Like you're just always going to play this, and it's always going to be good.
Right. It often will tap for 2 mana, and in some cases even more. Next is Bristlebane Battler. This is 1 and a green for a 6/6 Kithkin soldier at rare. It has Trample and Ward 2, and it enters with, you guessed it, 5 -1/-1 counters on it. So how do you get those counters off of it? Whenever another creature you control enters, while this creature has a -1/-1 counter on it, remove a -1/-1 counter on it from it. Why do they need to say while it has one? Would it just trigger all the time, even if it didn't, and just get annoying?
I don't actually know. Like,
okay.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the fail case is there, but
anyway, this seems dope.
Yeah, great card.
Yeah, it's 2 mana, 1/1 Trample Ward 2. Not that exciting, but all you have to do are make creatures, and that's what you're trying to do in the Kithkin deck. anyway. And, the typical, like once it gets to 3/3, you're already happy. But this is one I could very easily see getting all the counters off of it over the course of a game.
I think that you're going to play this, and in most of your Kithkin decks, like a couple turns later, this will be like a 4/4, and then 2 turns later, it'll be like a 6/6. It's not hard to make it
Not
work.
at all. I guess the downside is if you just kind of draw it later in the game, it's a little slower, a little harder to get up.
Yeah, it's not the best top deck for sure. But I think
man, on turn 2 though, dude, you're going to lose to this sucker.
Oh yeah.
You like B+ for it? B?
I like B+ for the Bristlebane Battler. Really, the only thing to keep in mind is you want to make sure that you have a good amount of creatures in your deck. Like you don't want this, in like the 5-color deck. It's still probably good, to be honest, but it's just I could think of situations where mostly you wouldn't pick it. If you're picking it, you're probably going to play it.
Next up is, there it is, Formidable Speaker. This is Jean-Emmanuel Dupra's World Championship card. So this is 2 and a green for a 2/4 Elf Druid at rare. And when this creature enters, you may discard a card. If you do, search your library for a creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle. And then it has activated ability 1, tap it to untap another target permanent. That's a sweet card.
Pretty cool card. It's an elf too. They let him have an on-type card. I mean, even without the untap ability, I'd be pretty happy with this card.
Definitely.
3 mana 2/4, discard your worst card to get your best creature. That's fantastic. And then the untap is a little awkward to use. Like I'm not sure exactly what you're meant to be doing here, but it still seems like it's relevant game text. Usually to untap a big blocker, sometimes I guess you could fix, like if you need a double black or something.
Right.
There are some ways that you could end up using it, but mostly 3 mana 2/4 goes against your best creature and it's a relevant creature type. Sounds great to me.
It sounds awesome. Yeah, I like A- for Formidable Speaker. I like the flexibility on I can discard a land and get my bomb. That's kind of the thing that comes to mind. But also sometimes you just discard something and go get your 4-drop so that you can continue your curve out, right? And keep putting stuff on the board. I like that flexibility a lot.
Where are you at for Formidable Speaker?
I think A-.
That's exactly what I was thinking. A-. It gets quite a bit better the more good creatures you have in your deck.
Right.
Like that is actually something. Like there are some decks that will not be able to use this as well. Like maybe a Kithkin deck that doesn't have a bomb or something like that.
Right. But man, you got a 2/4 for 3 that's just like holding down the fort while you set up for your big bomb. That's just nuts. Next is Mutable Explorer. This is 2 and a green for a 1/1 shapeshifter at rare. It has Changeling, and it says, when this creature enters, create a tapped Mutavault token. It's a land with taps to add colorless, and pay 1 mana, it becomes a 2/2 Changeling until end of turn that's still a land.
Yeah, this is super cool.
Are you kidding me?
What a cool card, right?
That is awesome.
I think that I am going to try this in Cube, though I kind of don't think it's actually going to be necessarily good enough. But still, I'm going to try it.
that is like if I were to say, okay, Luis, here's a ramp spell. It's like you would not come to this conclusion very often, but there it is. That is cool, though. I like that they made it a Changeling too. I mean, it goes with the Mutavault thing, but also just like, you kind of need that in this set.
Yeah, I think B+ for Mutable Explorer.
I do too. That is just a lot of material to put on the board, and Mutavaults are good. All right, next is Tristan Callous Cultivator. This is 2 and a green for a 3/4 legendary elf druid at rare. This is the double face card. So this one has Death Touch, 3 mana 3/4 Death Touch, and whenever this creature enters or transforms into the front face of it, you mill 3 cards. Then, if there's an elf card in your graveyard, you gain 2 life. At the beginning of your first main phase, you can pay black to turn it into Tristan Penitent Color, which is also a 3/4. With Death Touch. And it says, whenever this creature transforms into this side, mill 3 cards. Then you may exile an elf card from your graveyard. If you do, each opponent loses 2 life.
Kind of a weird card.
So you're gaining 2, losing. You're kind of every other turn doing the drain.
Yeah, this is a lot less exciting than the other cards in the cycle. Because what is the dream here exactly? The dream here is that you play this and gain life, and then you flip it, and then you drain them. They lose 2 life, and then
the upside here seems to be that you're just absolutely stocking your graveyard, so it's sort of like an enabler for the rest of your elves deck. But the other cards were just really good on their own, I mean, in context of the deck still, but still, they're just really good. And this one seems really slow. I mean, they did give you a freaking 3/4 death touch for 3, so we're not going to be complaining. But
clearly, this is a good card, and you will be happy to play this card in your deck. But it's not a bomb. This is a B.
Agreed. I mean, it is, if in any elf deck, it is gain 2, lose 2, gain, because it's not even of the milled cards. Like you're hitting that like a lot of the time.
It's clearly a card that your elf deck wants to play.
But you also can't just mill yourself for 3 till the end of the game. Like that adds up pretty quick.
Yeah. You can just stop transforming it, I guess, is probably
right. But then you're not doing the drain part. Yeah. I like B or maybe B plus for Tristan Cal's Cultivator, but it is not in that A range like the others were.
I'm good with B plus on that.
Champions of the Perfect is next. This is 3 and a green for a 6/6 elf warrior at rare. And of course, as an additional cost to cast this spell, you behold an elf and exile it. It says, whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. Wow, they didn't even narrow it down to elves. It's just any old creature. And whenever this creature leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to its owner's hand. So you get a 4 mana 6/6. Like, let's not bury that lead. That is a huge creature. And then whenever you cast a creature spell, you draw a card. So ideally, this thing survives at least until your next turn where you can get your card going and start smashing. I mean, that is just, if there's ever been a must kill, that's it. I mean,
if they cast this card, which they did against me once, I felt if I don't kill this, I'm going to lose. I was able to kill it. Then eventually, I think I still lost the game, but it's just unbeatable if they untap with it, and it's a 4 mana 6/6. So
it's hard to kill.
I like A.
I do
Champions
too.
Are perfect.
I do too.
Nothing wrong with this one.
No, 6 toughness makes it hard to kill too. You need specific types of removal to do that. Next is Selfless Safe Right. This is 3 green for a 4/2 elf warrior at rare. It's got flash and convoke, and it says when this creature enters, choose a creature type. Other permanents you control of that type gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Oh, that was really disappointing.
Yeah.
You get a 4/2?
It's a 4/2. If this eats a removal spell or helps you win a combat, like you're gonna feel pretty good about that.
That is true. There is upside there, but I wanted it to be more proactive. I wanted it to do something with combat a little more. Getting my, I wanted it to be like a pump effect for my team or something like that. This is a little disappointing on that front. How do you feel about a flash convoke 4/2?
I don't mind it. I mean, you're not going to want to cast it end of turn. I think what you really want to do with this card more than anything else is just to block.
I see.
And then convoke it out.
And then just win.
Yeah, because this even grants it to other permanents, so you can't play this and then block with it and have it like be awesome.
Right, exactly. I'm going to say C plus on Selfless Safe Right.
It's got to be a little better than that.
Does it? Maybe.
Just imagine if you just eat a removal spell, like you just have mana up for this.
Or when one combat, it is still good, and convoke is good. All right, B minus. You think it's a B?
Yeah, it's good. Maybe. It's got convoke. It's got flash. It's very efficient. It's 2 for 1 potential, 3 for 1 potential, 4 for 1 potential. I keep going.
It is true. It is true what you say. All right. B, Selfless Safe Right. You better do me right. I also do. I will say that Elves does seem to be okay with kind of setting up a big board and leveraging the graveyard, and it doesn't have to be like turning stuff sideways all the time. And this does enable that game plan further. So that probably bumps it. Next is Spry and Mighty. This is 4 and a green for a sorcery at rare. It says choose 2 target creatures you control. You draw X cards And the chosen creatures get +X and gain trample until end of turn, where X is the difference between the chosen creature's power.
It's a cool card. It takes a little bit of effort to work, but if you can get a differential of 3, you're drawing 3 cards and then attacking with a 7/7 and a 4/4 with trample. And if the differential goes higher than that, like you're really in the money.
Forget about it. Yeah. We've got some Lord of the Rings vibes here too, right?
Oh yeah. Little halflings and tree folks, or hobbits and tree folk.
It's an end.
I do know that. I would probably give this a B+. Like, it's situational, but the reward is definitely there. You win the game a lot of the times when you cast the card.
What if the difference is 1?
No, then you're pretty unhappy. You don't want to do that. I don't think.
But 2 is like already fine, right?
At 2, you're still maybe you got a 4/4 and a 2/2. Now you're attacking with a 6/6 and a 4/4 and drawing 2 cards. Yeah, I mean, that's not too bad.
That's probably already good. And you outlined 3, and that already seemed kind of busted, and anything above that's insane. Rules wise, choose 2 targets you control, and then this stuff happens. So we're not targeting. Right.
Yeah. So when you cast this card, you choose on resolution. I think because to avoid the like, oh, what happens if I kill one of them?
That's what I'm
answer.
Yeah, because that would like potentially fizzle the whole thing. So can my opponent, like, let's say I have a 1/1 and a 7/7, and I say I'd like to play Brian Mighty.
Well, if
can they mess it up?
Oh yeah. If those are the only 2 creatures you have in play, and then you cast this, at the end of it, if it resolves, it just won't do anything.
Oh, really?
So
so you have to make sure the way is clear.
Wait, no. I got that the opposite way. This chooses on casting. So
so I'm
use last
safe.
known. You're safe. Where you will get screwed is if they have a -X ability. But like, let's say you have a 1/1 and a 7/7, you just cast this. Wait, no, it's not an additional cost. Rewind. Ignore everything I just said. The way I said it the first time I was right. You cast this card. It's on the stack.
Okay.
If they kill one of your only 2 creatures, you can't choose 2 creatures. I don't think it'll do anything. If you have 3 creatures in play and you cast this and they kill your biggest creature, you can then choose the other 2 and still get some kind of
maybe get something out of it.
Where you're insulated is if you have 2 4/4s and 2 2/2s, then no matter what they kill, you'll still have something to choose. Mm-hmm. And I could even see a scenario where you have 2 5/5s and a 1/1, and you cast this, they have to kill your 1/1 to stop it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, well, if it is that much riskier, I would bump it down to like B- or B range. I still love the upside. Like you said,
upside's still there.
May just win the game on the spot. And if you just wait till they're tapped out or reasonably tapped down where they're not going to mess with your stuff, yeah, green light, go for it. And you're going to be in a good spot. Okay, yeah, that's an interesting one. Next up is Aurora Awakener. This is 6 and a green for a giant druid. It's mythic rare. It's a 7/7 trampler, and it has Vivid. When this creature enters, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal X permanent cards, where X is the number of colors among permanents you control. Put any number of those permanent cards onto the battlefield, then put the rest of the cards rest of the revealed cards on the bottom of your library in a random order. Holy smokes. And you can't miss?
Well, you can hit lands. Lands are permanents.
I guess those are kind of misses at the point that you have 7 mana.
Yeah. But I mean, imagine you Vivid for 3, you just you put your top 3 permanents into play.
Jeez. And you're getting a 7/7 trampler?
Yeah, like I said, Giants has some good 7-drop Giants that are just like the top of the curve here. I like A- for Aurora Awakener.
I do too.
Most of the time you cast it, you're going to get like minimum 2. It's really hard to get less than 2. Obviously 1 is possible.
I mean, not us. We're going to get 5, obviously, but
yeah. I mean, but it's not that hard to get a bunch here. So I think A- for Aurora Awakener. Look, when you cast your 7-mana spell, there's this or the other giant that makes them all 1/1s. It has a really big impact on the board, where even if this thing is dealt with, you're still probably in decent shape. And that's
exactly
what we look for here.
Yeah, a perfectly fine use case would be, even if it's just 2, you get like a land and a creature plus this. It's like, that's already good. And that's like kind of aiming low. Next up is Sapling Nursery. This is 6 green for an enchantment at rare. It has affinity for forests. That's cool. And just in case you don't know what that is, this spell costs 1 less to cast for each forest you control. And it has landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, create a 3/4 green tree folk creature token with reach. And it has 1 and a green, exile this enchantment. Tree folk and forests you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Holy crap. Dude, this is awesome.
The sweet spot is 4, where if you can play this for 4 mana, you can often play a land the same turn. And once you're doing that, every land is a 3/4. Seems like you'll win the game because each land gives you time to draw more land, and especially if you have cards that like search for lands.
So if I have 4 forests, that gets me to that point.
Yeah, it's literally forests. So,
dude, this is sweet.
I have yet to see this card be great. I did have my opponent cast it for 6 mana against me, and they made 1 tree folk before they died. But I can imagine like an 11 or 12 forest deck, which seems plausible, can really make this thing work. And even if you cast it for 5 mana, that's still a 3/4 reach keeps you alive really, really well. So I like Build Around B for the nursery. It looks pretty good.
I think I like Build Around B+ or A- for it. This is like very my type of card though, so I have to
certainly is
pull myself away. I'll say Build Around B+ for Sapling Nursery. All right, that moves us to gold cards. We've got looks like some pairs of gold cards here. The first one is Deepway Navigator, which is blue-white for a 2/2 Merfolk Wizard at rare. It has flash. And when this creature enters, untap each other merfolk you control. And as long as you attacked with 3 or more merfolk this turn, merfolk you control get +1/+0. Weird. So you're meant to attack. Yeah. So you're meant to attack and then play this like before damage.
Yeah, because it just says as long as you attacked with 3 or more, so it can come out. During combat, and then of course you can flash this to block or to use your merfolk tap abilities like multiple times. It's probably weaker than just a lord that says merfolk all have ++1 like the uncommon, but
right,
it can still do some things. It's a B. It's a good card for merfolk.
Yeah, it looks like a solid B. Deepway Navigator. Next is Sig's Command. There's a cycle of these too, by the way. 1 blue, white for a kindred sorcery merfolk. This is rare. And you get to choose 2, and there's 4 different options that you choose from. First one is create a token that's a copy of target merfolk you control. The next one is creatures target player controls gain lifelink until end of turn. The next one is target player draws a card. And the last one is tap target creature, put a stun counter on it. Dang, man, they didn't mess around with these things. That's 3 mana for that.
Yeah, I mean, the commands all have create a copy of that creature type. So we know that all of those do that. But when you look at Sig's Command, I think that the most profitable one is to make a merfolk and draw a card. But the later the game gets, the more likely you are going to want to give lifelink or tap a creature, and the less likely you are to want to draw a card, I think, because you generally near the end of the game, you want things that happen right away. Right. But it kind of doesn't really matter how you choose it. The fact that it has draw a card means at worst, you're like, all right, tap your creature, draw a card, get a stun counter. Like, right. That's totally fine. So I like B+ for Sig's Command. And
same.
It has room to grow. If you have a lot of really good merfolk, like this card can be awesome.
Yeah, really sweet. Next up is Deceit. This is 4 and 2 blue-black hybrid. So 4 blue-blue, 4 black-black, 4 blue-black for a 5/5 elemental incarnation that is a mythic rare. And it says when this creature enters, if blue-blue was spent to cast it, return up to 1 other target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. When this creature enters, if black-black was spent to cast it, target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. And then the really fun part is it has evoke for blue-blue, black-black, or if you're crazy, blue-black.
Yes. This card, so there's a cycle of these evoke elementals too that have hybrids, and basically the most interesting thing to figure out is which one color makes these worth it, because if you're both colors, all of these cards are awesome, like A-level cards. Like,
because you can get both, right? That's the
this
joke.
This is an A. Like, imagine you spend 6 mana, you play this as a 5/5, bounce one of their things, then get to Thoughtseize them, and you could take the one you bounced, or you could take a better card if there is one. God. If you can only play the blue half, you'll still play this card. Like, you imagine you're playing this in blue-red. It's 4 blue for a 5/5 that bounces anything. There's a lot of ETB bounce creatures in this set, actually.
There's a lot of flash and that.
And you also have the buyout of blue bounce something at sorcery speed, though that's not that exciting. If you could only play the black version, I'm not that interested, or I'm less interested. 6 mana 5/5, discarding their best card on turn 6 or 7 is, sometimes can miss. But I guess you can cast it on turn 2. So I would probably give this about a B+ in blue, a B- in black, and an A if you're both together.
Definitely. And just try to get both of the costs in there. And
imagine an elemental deck that, like a blue-green elemental deck, that can almost always play the blue version. And then sometimes if it gets the right fixing, can just like sneak the black in there too.
I love the art too. That's a front runner for my favorite card of the set. Next up is Dream Harvest, which is 5 and then the same thing, 2 blue-black hybrid. It's a sorcery at rare, and it says each opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until they have exiled cards with total mana value 5 or greater this way. Until end of turn, you may cast cards exiled this way without paying their mana costs. So 7 mana sorcery. Each opponent exiles cards, so you're only getting their stuff.
This card is disgusting if you ever played Two-Headed Giant, by the way.
Oh, really? It gets both of them?
Yeah.
That's nasty. So what does it mean? They've exiled cards with total mana value 5. So like if they go like 2 to 6 drop, then it's like it stops then?
So what you want with this is you want to hit 4 and then hit a big thing.
Yeah. So 2 6 drop like I was. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You want the ideal scenario is you get up to 4 and then you hit a 5 drop or a 6 drop or whatever.
But you get all of the cards?
Like you get all the cards, you get to cast them all.
Cast them all right away. Dude, this is sweet. This is awesome.
Look, on the one hand, often you're going to spend 7 mana and cast less than 7 mana worth of cards. You're going to hit a 2 into a 4 or just hit a 5 or whatever. Sometimes you're going to hit like 9 mana worth of cards if you're lucky. And if you ever hit multiple cards, you're probably getting your money's worth, even if it doesn't quite add up to 7 mana. So I like B+.
What deck do you envision this?
Any controlling deck, any deck that can like just draw out the game pretty much.
That card is super sweet. Next is Shadow Urchin. This is 2 and a red-black hybrid, so 3 mana total for a 3/4 oof. It is rare. It says whenever this creature attacks, blight 1. And whenever a creature you control with 1 or more counters on it dies, exile that many cards from the top of your library. Until your next end step, you may play those cards.
So for being off-brand and oof, not a supported type, this seems pretty reasonable because it's not hard to have creatures running around with counters on them. And then, like, imagine you have a 2/2 with a counter on it. You can now just chump with it, and then you get a card back because it's until your next end step. So you have like that whole turn cycle. And this can attack and put a counter on it. It can put a counter on itself, and then if it dies in combat, you'll still get the trigger. And
the trigger's counting the number of counters that were on it when it died?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's either 1 counter or 2 or 3 or whatever, and you can play multiple cards. So you have the same kind of like time window to play them all, but you might be able to play 2 cards out of the same trigger. And
it's until your next end step. So it is kind of that
in
turn.
Combat, it's that turn.
Right.
But if you block on their turn, you have until your next turn.
Okay. That does seem good. Again, this is one of those cards that we're trying to say, okay, it's not a goblin. Right. So it's not an elf. Those are the decks that might want to play this. Does it meet the threshold of raw power level? And yeah, I do think it does actually. I would probably run a Shadow Urchin in my
looks set. Like a B to me. Yeah. I mean, it's also a 3 mana 3/4. Granted, when it attacks, you do have to blight, but 3 mana 3/4 is pretty good stats.
Totally. And also you can just block with the thing. Next up is, I had this one too. Grub's Command. This is 3 black red for a kindred sorcery goblin. So this is the command for goblins. Choose two. The first one is what Luis said, create a token that's a copy of target goblin you control. The others are creatures target player controls gets +1/+1 and gains haste until end of turn. Or you can destroy target artifact, ... or creature. So there's a straight up removal spell. And then the last one is target player mills 5 cards, then puts each goblin card milled this way into their hand.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to cast this almost always as the destroy target creature mode.
Yes.
And then if you have a big board, +1/+1 to all your goblins. If you have a medium board, maybe copy a goblin. If you have a small board, maybe mill and get goblins. It does do a lot of getting goblins.
It does. It does. My brain, when I had it in my deck, I was like, I either want to make a token and pump up my squad because it gives the token haste and you just kill them on the spot. That's the, do I just win if I do these two? If no, then almost every time I was destroy a creature, mill myself for 5 and get the goblins out of it. So I would draw 2 or 3 or 1 or, if I got really lucky 4 or something like that. But I mean, that's the highest leverage, right? You're for sure killing something on the other side, and then you're giving yourself a good shot to get, say, 2 cards into your hand from it and just kind of complete the 3-for-1, which is very difficult to beat long term. If you have the win on board, or if it looks like you could win, just copy your best thing and then give everything haste and smash.
Also, you know what I really want to combine a draw 3 with, which is kind of like a draw 2 or 3 or whatever, is a removal spell, so I have time to cast all those
Totally,
cards.
Dude. It really, the only thing about it is that it's in goblins. It's kind of trying to turn sideways, but goblins definitely has the grindy element if you go for the more chip damage one that you've been describing, and this fits perfectly into that. And then of course, it is a kindred sorcery goblin, so you can get it back with grub and just do all these stupid things.
I mean, I like A for all the
I just would give
basically.
it an A in goblins. Yes. I had it.
I would
have played like that.
The thing is, this doesn't need to be in goblins to be reasonable. Like you can splash this as a destroy target, like an overrun plus destroy, target creature.
Totally.
Or if you have some changelings, you'll copy a goblin sometimes.
Oh, what if you're a mill deck?
Yeah, mill them for 5.
Taste it. Next up is Raiding Schemes. This is 3 red-green for an enchantment at rare. It says each non-creature spell you cast has Conspire, which says as you cast a non-creature spell, you may tap 2 untapped creatures you control that share a color with it. When you do, copy it, and you may choose new targets for the copy. A copy of a permanent spell becomes a token.
I think this is maybe 2 steps too many, honestly.
Right.
Because first of all, it's a red-green card, which is already like a little bit harder to play. Second, it only copies non-creature spells, and you have to have 2 creatures that share a color with that spell. This looks like an F to me.
Yeah.
I just think that the juice and the squeeze are very far apart.
Next up is Vibrance, which is 3 and 2 red-green hybrid for a 4/4 elemental incarnation at Mythic Rare, and this is the kind of evoke payoff for this. So it says, when this creature enters, if red was spent to cast it, this creature deals 3 damage to any target. And when this creature enters, if green was spent to cast it, search your library for a land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle, and you gain 2 life. And then, yes, it has evoke for 2 red-green hybrid mana. That's a beating.
Oh yeah, this card's excellent. The fact that both modes are fine to just evoke, like I'm going to pay red to kill something or green to go get a land if I need to do that, right? If you're in that position, it's obviously a good card. Makes this card something I'm very happy to just take early and try to be red-green. It is better to be red-green, but I like this at A if you're red-green and pretty much B if you're green or red, especially if you have some other combos and stuff with it. Like ways to get something back from the graveyard are nice, because imagine your black-green deck, you can pay green to play this early as a land searcher. You get it back, and maybe by then you even have some random off-color fixers to make it so you get the red version.
Right.
Really good card to go into the 5-color Vivid deck.
Definitely. What an amazing payoff for that deck. Next is Figure of Fable. This is 1 mana, so it is a green or white mana. It's a hybrid, and that's for a 1/1 Kithkin. And it has 3 activated abilities. This follows a template, going all the way back to Figure of Destiny, but we've seen it on a few cards. And this one is you can pay 1 mana, again, a green or white, so a green-white hybrid for this creature becomes a Kithkin Scout with base power and toughness 2/3. So you upgrade it from a Kithkin that's a 1/1 to a Kithkin Scout that's a 2/3. The middle one is 1 and 2 green-white hybrid, so 3 mana total. And then it says, if this creature is a scout, that's what prevents you from skipping abilities here. It says it becomes a Kithkin Soldier with base power and toughness 4/5. And if you want to do the full meal deal here, it's 6 mana, 3 and 3 green-white hybrid for if this creature is a soldier, it becomes a Kithkin Avatar with base power and toughness 7/8 and protection from each of your opponents, which means you can't target it, you can't block it, you can't do anything to mess with it.
I mean, this card is just absolutely absurd.
That is
You don't
filthy.
even have to be green-white. Like, obviously it's best green-white, but this is not like Figure of Destiny where it takes 3 to turn it to level 2 and 6 to turn it to level 3 of the same color. Imagine if you're green-black, you just play this card and easily make it a 2/3, and then at some point make it a 4/5, and then later in the game make it a 7/8 pro everything, a hex drinker. So I like A for Figure of Fable.
I do too.
Look, the first time my opponent played this against me, I read it and I'm like, yep, that's a problem. Like there's no real fail case, and especially in straight green-white, they never have color issues. So
right.
Yes, it is best in green-white, but it's totally playable everywhere.
Right. And, it's worth noting that this is old school template. Like you can do this anytime you want. You can just sit on the mana. You can do it in combat. You can do it. And then if they try to kill in response, you can just do it again. Like these cards are very difficult to deal with. Next is Brigid's Command. This is 1 green-white for a Kindred Sorcery Kithkin. Yes, the first, and you get to choose 2 of these 4 modes. Yes, the first one is create a token that's a copy of a Kithkin you control. The other modes are target player creates a 1/1 green and white Kithkin creature token. The next one is target creature you control gets +3/+3 until end of turn, though this is a sorcery. And the last one is target creature you control fights target creature an opponent controls. And then just as a reminder, these are, these things happen in the order that they're printed on the card. If you were to say, give your creature +3/+3 and the fight, that will get +3/+3 first and then fight the creature. So you'll, basically guaranteed win that fight.
This is probably the worst command. Just because
I feel that way too. Only 1/1/1 and like
getting a 1/1 Kithkin, that's the fail mode. That's like, totally. I guess I have to make a 1/1.
And a sorcery speed buff.
And the sorcery speed buff sets up the fight. Really what you want to do with this is make a Kithkin and have a bigger Kithkin fight one of their smaller things so you can just get the clean 2-for-1.
That's your best case, yeah.
But I'd say in general, look, this one's like a B+.
Right.
You're never not playing this, and it's a reason to be in green-white, but it's just not on the level of the other commands.
Yeah. Next up is Abigail, Eloquent First Year. This costs 2 mana. You can pay white, black, or black, so 2 black-white hybrid for a 1/1 legendary bird bard at rare. And Abigail has flying, first strike, and lifelink. And it says when Abigail enters, up to 1 other target creature loses all abilities. Put a flying counter, a first strike counter, and a lifelink counter on that creature.
I mean, this is the card I was talking about. This card is absurdly real.
So what does it do? Like it breaks you down and builds you right back up again? Like what is the idea just that you target one of your things and these 3 counters are just going to make it better than whatever it was anyway?
Oh yeah. And it's not even hard for that to be. Imagine your average 3/3. Would you rather have its ability or give it first strike, flying, and lifelink?
Right. Totally.
So
yeah, there's only a few rares that you wouldn't take that deal on.
The sweet spot here is 3/3, where you really want to target a 3/3 with this, but a 4/4 is obviously even better. If you have to, you can target your opponent's thing, but obviously you don't really want to do that. But I mean, imagine they have like the 1/2, that lets them play cards out of their graveyard. Making it into a 1/2 flying lifelink first strike is probably better for you than a 1/2 like the Blight Shaman or whatever. So I think I like A- for Abigail. Just imagine the average board when you cast this and make a 3/3 or 4/4 into a flyer, hit them for a big lifelink flyer, and this sits around as a 1/1 flying first strike lifelink. That's totally a reasonable thing.
Yeah, and also, wait a minute. Like if Abigail dies, those are counters.
Yeah. They're not connected at all.
So the abilities come back.
No.
Right?
If Abigail dies, it doesn't matter. It's fire and
it
forget.
loses abilities permanently.
Yeah. This just happens.
Okay. My bad.
She's no longer connected to the card at all.
Gotcha. Okay.
But you are left behind with a 1/1 flying first strike lifelink, which is, like I said, a really relevant card. So I had 2 in my deck, and they were incredible. So I would give it an A-. I think it's just really strong.
For Abigail. Yeah, that's a really potent trio of counters. Next is called Emptiness. This is 4 and 2 black-white hybrid, 6 mana total for a 3/5 elemental incarnation at Mythic Rare. It says, when this creature enters, if white was spent to cast it, return creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. And when this creature enters, if black was spent to cast it, put 3 -1/-1 counters on up to 1 target creature, and it does have Evoke for the 2 black-white hybrid. Good God.
I mean, yeah.
You kidding? How many 3-for-1s are in this set?
Well, there's a whole cycle of commands and a whole cycle of elementals, and they all do it.
Good start.
I would say this is an A in black-white and a B in mono if you're either mono color.
Yes, agreed. Wow. I still want black-white to be a real thing, man.
If you're capable of playing the black side, it's actually like an A- still. The split card of black -3/-3 or 6 mana 3/5 -3/-3, that's pretty good.
That is really good. Okay, next is Sonar Innovative First Year. This is 2 and 2 blue-red hybrid for a 2/4 legendary goblin sorcerer at rare, and it's got Vivid. At the beginning of your first main phase, reveal cards from the top of your library until you've revealed X non-land cards, where X is the number of colors among permanents you control. For each of those colors, you may exile a card of that color from among the revealed cards, then shuffle. You may cast the exiled cards this turn.
So again, kind of weird templating, but basically you untap and then you reveal 1 card for each color, and then you can cast a card for, then you can cast all those cards each turn. So,
but of the color, like you have to like sort of checkbox them, right?
For each color, you can only cast 1 of each color, but so if you have this, you're exiling 2 cards, and you can choose. So sorry, you reveal those cards, and then you choose and exile 1 for each color, and then you can cast those cards. So Sanar by himself reveals 2, and then you can then choose to cast a blue card or a red card. You can exile a blue card and a red card and play them.
Right, exactly.
The cool thing about this is the cards you don't choose go back into your deck. They shuffle. And if you know you're not going to cast a card, let's say you flip a good 4-mana blue spell and a 4-mana red spell, you should just decide which one you're going to cast and only choose that one, and then shuffle the other one back in your deck, assuming you want it back in your deck, which I'd say most of the time you probably do.
Right.
If you get a 3rd color off this, it's just obscene. You're exiling 3 cards and then just choosing to play some amount of them.
But to be clear, like, and I know this isn't likely, but let's say I exile a black card and a green card with it. I just can't do that. I can't cast them, right? If this is all I have on the board.
Yeah, you can, but that's not going to happen very often. I had this card once. It was just incredible. Basically, it's 4 mana, 2/4. If you untap, you win the game. Right.
That's what it feels like. It feels like a card draw engine that is unbeatable if you get to survive with it. That is like super creepy art, though. I am out on Sanar Innovative First Year. But as a card, like, where does it fit? The Vivid
honestly,
deck. I think
A- might be a reasonable grade for this.
Would you play it in like Goblins or something? I had
it in Goblins, and it was awesome.
Okay.
I would play this in any deck. Okay. And it's also really easy to cast. It's hybrid. So if you first pick this, you can put it in your Merfolk deck. You can put it in your Goblins deck. You can put it in your Elementals deck. It just goes everywhere.
And then, of course, if you are in the multicolor Vivid deck, it's just absolutely off the hook. Next is Ashling's Command. This is the blue-red command. So it's 3 blue-red for a Kindred. This one's instant elemental, and it's rare. Choose 2. Create a token that's a copy of target elemental you control, though it is an instant speed, kind of interesting. The other 3 are target player draws 2 cards. Boom. Ashley's command deals 2 damage to each creature target player controls. Wow. And target player creates 2 treasure tokens. So that third ability is interesting, right? It's narrow, but when it's good, it's great.
Yeah. The third, like as the deal 2 or the treasure?
The deal 2.
The deal 2, yeah. I think again, the optimal modes for this are general, or like the modes that you think about are always going to choose the draw 2 and either make an elemental or deal 2 to their stuff if you're playing against someone who's susceptible to that. But making treasures is not that bad either.
No.
Like imagine an empty board, you're both doing nothing. All right, I'm going to draw 2, make 2 treasures, and maybe, play something big.
Maybe play
the other thing
something
that's crazy about this is Flame Braider can cast it on turn 3, the 2-drop 2/2 that taps for mana. So I like A for Ashlyn's command. All the commands are just really good. This one's quite excellent.
Next up is Lorwyn Imperfect Naturalist. This is 2 green-black hybrid. So 2 mana for a 1/3 legendary elf druid. It's rare. It says, when it enters, mill 4 cards, then you may put a creature or land card from among the milled cards on top of your library. And it has an activated ability of 2 and 3 black-green hybrid, 5 mana total. Tap it and discard a land card to create a 1/1 black and green worm creature token for each land card in your graveyard.
So this one is hybrid, but I think it mostly fits into green black anyways, just because it's got the whole self-milling aspect, and this is the one where you'd want like the Midnight Tilling and the elves that mill 3 and stuff. Because if you can discard a land and make like 4 worms, you feel pretty good about that. If you make more than that, like we're actually talking worms of the earth are coming for you. So I think that the fact that it's also a 2 mana elf that lets you get a good creature back on top of your deck, so it's not card advantage in that sense, but lets you go dig up a creature from among the milled cards. Not everything, but still, it's also a setup. I mean, 2 mana 1/3 mill 4 as an elf is just like a playable card.
Exactly. That's what this is, right? This has 2 very distinct modes. The first one is just set up for elves. It's not amazing, but it's good enough to put in your deck. And then it has this late game thing that it can just at some point start turning top deck lands that you don't want into multiple worms, and that's a good way to win the game. I like that. That's a really cool design. I mean, I think I would give it like a B.
Yeah, B for Lorwyn sounds perfect.
Pretty cool though.
Or imperfect.
Yeah. Next is High Perfect Morganta. I always think of that when you say the jaw thing. 2 black green for a 4/4 elf noble at rare. Whenever High Perfect Morgant or another elf you control enters, each opponent blights 1. Am I right? Tap 3 untapped elves you control to proliferate at sorcery speed. And for those who don't know, proliferate means choose any number of permanents and or players, then give each another counter of each kind already there. So like if it has a -1/-1 counter, you give it an additional one. You add 1 to it. If it has a charge counter, it gets another charge counter. And when you proliferate, you choose, all right, I will do this one, this one, this one, and this one, and they each get an extra counter. That way you don't have to give your opponent like beneficial ones. That is cool, man. So that Blight 1 can really start to get the ball rolling because, there's no mana cost on the proliferate part. It's tapping elves, and that can get out of control. The only saving grace for your opponent is at least it's at sorcery speed where they can't just hold up a bunch of blocking elves and then do it on end step.
Yeah, one of the things when you're playing against this card, when they go like Blight 1 on you, you kind of want to stack all the counters on a creature until it dies, basically. Because imagine if you have 2 3/3s and you put a counter on each, and then they proliferate. Now you have 2 1/1s. Whereas if you put 2 counters on the same one, they proliferate. Now one's dead, but you have a 3/3. You overall have lost less. So if they have this card, if you're playing against it, you do kind of want to spread the counters around as little as possible and just concentrate them if you can. But obviously, eventually that creature dies and you have to keep going. So great card. I mean, awesome. You do need to be heavy elves to really make use of it, because if you can't use the proliferate ability and you're not getting multiple counters off the first trigger, it's not that impressive. But every time I've had or seen this in Elves, it's been awesome. So I'll give it an A minus. It's
Yeah.
not quite a windmill slam bomb like the next card, which is, but still very, very good.
Next card is Tristan's Command, which is 4 green-red for a Kindred Sorcery Elf at rare. Choose 2 of these 4 options. The first one is what we've seen. You get to make a copy of target elf you control. The other 3, though, are return 1 or 2 target permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand, or destroy target creature or enchantment, or creatures target player controls get +3/+3 until end of turn, and you untap them. What is the untap them?
I don't really understand that. Maybe
Yeah.
you're tapping your elves to cast this, like your mana elves.
Oh, that is, dude, you nailed it. It's like you cast your Llanowar elves and then get it. That's cool. So what's maximum value here? Get 2 permanents back from the yard and destroy a creature.
Yeah, well, the maximum value, there's the card, the uncommon that we talked about, Dawn Blessed Pennant, which lets you pick a creature type, and then you can pay 2 tap and sack it, get a card back of that type back.
Mm-hmm.
If you have this
do
with
this
Tristan,
again.
well, no, you loop it because this returns 2 permanents. So you sack the pennant, get this back, destroy one of their creatures. Then next turn, you cast this, get the pennant back, destroy a creature, then sack the pennant, get this back, and you're getting an additional permanent every cycle as well. It's not even just a straight up loop a terminate. So that's actually a big thing to look out for. Mm-hmm. The hard part to get is the Tristan's Command, of course. But if I had this card, I would be on the lookout for Dawn Blessed Pennant. I would take it very highly because you just get into this loop where, yes, it costs 9 mana to do the loop, but you don't have to do it all at once. And every loop, you get an additional permanent back and destroy one of their cards. Like, it does not take very much to do that. Imagine you go Tristan's Command, kill your biggest thing, get back 2 elves, play the 2 elves, trade them off, then go pennant, get back command, kill your biggest thing, get back pennant plus elf. Like, that's disgusting.
That is a concession. Yeah.
Also, this card is just good by itself. 6 mana, make an elf, kill a thing, or 6 mana, kill a thing, get back 2 cards. Sometimes you'll cast the +3/+3, but it's just, you could take that part of the card off, like that last mode, and I don't think it would change my grade of the card. Like, it's an A, and it's just not going to be not an A because you take the weakest mode off.
Right. And the weakest mode, when you do choose it, usually just says you win the game. Like, it just absolutely, like, it. Whenever you pick +3/+3, it's going to be because you do the math and you go, oh, well.
Yeah. Either they're dead or they have to chump enough that it's better to do that mode.
Exactly.
But yeah. A for Tristan's Command, easily splashable. And look out for that Mondo combo. I think that's like a really real part of it.
That's nasty. Next is Kirol, Attentive First Year. This is 1 and 2 white-red hybrid mana, 3 mana total for a 3/3 legendary vampire cleric at rare. It says tap 2 untapped creatures you control, copy target triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy, and you can only do this once each turn. It's kind of a bizarrely narrow effect.
Yeah, I mean, Elementals has a lot of triggers, but even Merfolk has triggers too. Like,
yeah,
it's pretty flexible mana wise. You've got a bunch of ETB cards. I mean, any ETB ability is just going to be awesome with this card. So I like B for Kirol. I just think the way cards are these days, if you slot this into a random deck, you're going to have a bunch of stuff that it works with.
Yeah, it does feel that way.
How it is.
And this can be one of the creatures you tap, right? So it's like,
yeah.
Next up is Bree of Clan Stout Arm. This is 2 red-white for a 4/4 legendary giant warrior at rare. Activated ability, 1 and a white, tap it. Another target creature you control gains flying and lifelink until end of turn. And then it says, at the beginning of your end step, if you gain life this turn, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost if the spell's mana value is less than or equal to the amount of life you gain this turn. Otherwise, put it in your hand. Draw the dang thing. This is another of those, off main creature type cards that we have to say, is it powerful enough on its own? And heck yeah, it is, right?
I mean, the ability here is not only get a 4 mana 4/4, which is totally fine. You start throwing your creatures at their face. I mean, the creatures don't even die or anything.
That's the thing.
Go to the sky.
It's supposed to die. Them. Like, when a giant chucks you like this, you don't survive it, but this just does.
No, they land just fine. And I don't even care about getting a lot of life to play the spell for free. That's a nice bonus. But even throwing a 2/2 at them, you gain 2, they take 2, and you draw a card into turn. And you draw a non-land card. It's not even just draw a card.
You actually get a card. Yeah, what the heck?
Yeah.
Where does it fit, though? Like, this is a red-white spell.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you'll just play red-white, and it'll be in that deck. Sometimes you'll splash it in, like, the Vivid deck. It looks like a great card to splash in your, like, red-green or red-blue deck, you know? And there's, like, a little bit of fixing. There's, like, a sprinkling of fixing. You could imagine just, like, playing this in a Goblins deck if you have an Evolving Wilds and one other card or something like that. So I like B+ for Bree of Clan Stoutarm.
Very good. Next is Catharsis. This is 4 and 2 red-white hybrid, 6 mana for a 3/4 elemental incarnation at Mythic Rare. When this creature enters, if white was spent to cast it, create 2 1/1 green and white Kithkin creature tokens. And when this creature enters, if red was spent to cast it, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain haste until end of turn. And then it does have Evoke for the same cost as before, 2 red-white hybrid. It's a 3/4 for 6 that just gives you a full board state.
Yeah, this is, I think, probably the weakest of the incarnations because you're not going to play this just for the red part. Like if you're mono red or like only red, because certainly red evoking it is generally not good. But even 6 mana for a 3/4 that gives all your creatures +1/+1 in haste, that's okay, but that's not like,
so it's
incredible.
A 4/5 haste
it would attack
that
as a
pumps
4/5,
the rest of your team. Yeah, it's still a thing.
It's still a thing, but not like amazing. And then white to make 2 Kithkins or 6 mana for a 3/4 +2/2. That, again, both fine, but not like amazing. So this one actually looks kind of like a B to me, where if you can play both, you'll be happy to play it because you're attacking with a 4/5 and 2/2/2s. But I don't know how often you're going to be red-white, and playing it for either half doesn't seem incredible.
Yeah, the white seems, if it's 4 white for a 3/4 and 2 1/1s, yeah, sure. That's Grave Titan enough. I agree. B+ for Catharsis, unless you can get all of it together, which is less likely, in which case, yeah, it's probably still an A or somewhere in that range. Next up is Tam, Mindful First Year. This is 1 and a blue-green hybrid. It's a 2/2 legendary Gorgon Wizard, so 2 mana 2/2. Each other creature you control has hexproof from each of its colors. And tap it, target creature you control becomes all colors until end of turn.
So by itself, it doesn't have any protection. It doesn't have hexproof and or anything like that. But it's kind of like a Giver of Runes where they can't target anything else till they kill this. Just does mean they're going to kill this first, though. So I think I would play this card whenever in pretty much any deck. It's easy to cast. It's a 2 mana 2/2 that they have to kill or the removal spell turns off. That's a pretty potent card. I mean, sometimes they will end up in a spot that they can't really do much.
And you're getting even if you don't activate it, like if you happen to be in the mirror or something, they just can't.
Like you play this in your Merfolk deck and they're playing blue-white. All your other stuff's going to have hexproof. Of course, again, they can just kill this, but let's look at the Merfolk mirror. Imagine they have all lockdown enchantments that don't kill this, Yeah. I guess the white one does let you exile it, but imagine they just had the blue one and they just, they can't get rid of this. That's going to be pretty annoying. So I like B- for Tam.
B- for Tam, Mindful First Year. Next is Wistfulness. This is 3 and 2 blue-green hybrid, 5 mana total for a 6/5 elemental incarnation at Mythic. And it says when this creature enters, if GG, green was spent to cast it, exile target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls. And when it enters, if blue was spent to cast it, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. And then, of course, you can evoke it for 2 green-blue hybrid. It's also a freaking 6/5 for 5. It's pretty big.
Yeah, this one's big. This one I like a lot, especially since it's kind of got the opposite thing going that Catharsis, the red and white one, did, which is the blue-green decks are easily going to be able to meet these requirements and are pretty flexible with the mana. The red-white deck's like the opposite, where it's like, oh, I guess I'm going to try to play red-white, and the mana is going to be an issue. So I like Wistfulness a lot. This looks like an A, like getting into disenchant, getting to the draw 2 and discard 1, getting a 6/5, all that's good stuff.
Definitely, and they really set that.
And I would play this in blue or green. You don't need to be both. Both modes are totally fine.
Totally. And man, 6/5 for 5 is nice. Next is, it's Doran, Besieged by Time. Oh no, he got real old. This is 1 and a white-black green. The old one costs just that without the one. So 4 mana for still a 0/5 legendary Treefolk Druid at rare. And it says each creature spell you cast with toughness greater than its power costs 1 less to cast. And whenever a creature you control attacks or blocks, it gets +X until end of turn, where X is the difference between its power and toughness.
So it makes things cheaper, but by the time you can cast this, that's probably not like a huge upside.
Right.
And it makes your your 1/3 now attacks as a 3/5. It's kind of a weird sort of ability.
What is does this thing attack as a 5/10?
It attacks as a 5/10, which is pretty big too.
Yeah, 4 mana 5/10 on blocks or attacks. That's actually kind of good. I think the thing that I keep thinking about is like I keep looking at the mana cost, right? So like when I see this type of mana cost, my mind goes to the Vivid decks, but I'm not sure if Doran Besieged by Time is like what the Vivid decks are looking for. And if that's not the case, it feels like it's kind of an outlier. Like there's not really a strong Treefolk deck. Like, you know what I mean? Like I start to struggle with where it's going to fit into the format.
My guess is if you can cast this in the Vivid deck, it's worth it because it's really big, and it also
in 3 colors
could make some of your other stuff a little cheaper. Though most of the giants are like square stats anyway, so you're not getting a discount on like your like 7 mana giants, unfortunately. But this is kind of like a build around B. If your mana works, it's fine. If this card costs 2 green, we would give it an A. You know,
like right, just for stats,
yeah, just for massive stats. But you know, if you can cast it, it's good.
Okay. Next up is Marlin Fey Ascendant. This one costs 2 blue, green, black for a 4/5 legendary elf fairy noble. Got a mix here. And this is rare. It's a flyer. And it says, whenever Marlin or another elf or fairy you control enters, exile the top 2 cards of target opponent's library. Once each turn, you may cast a spell with mana value less than or equal to the number of elves and fairies you control from among the cards exiled with Marlin this turn without paying its mana cost. Have we seen an elf fairy before?
Well, there's a bunch of shapeshifters in the set, but
yeah, true.
There's probably
cool
some sort of team up in some of the other sets when there's like multi-legends.
It's kind of cool to have an overlap here.
Yeah. This is obviously Sultai is the elf fairy colors. They share black, and then some elves in green and fairies in blue. And you can kind of put this into either an elf deck splashing green, or more likely a fairies deck splashing green, or more likely an elf deck splashing blue, a green-black deck splashing a little blue. Because this cares about you having a bunch of elves and fairies, but you know, in the fairies deck is not going to have quite as many as the elves deck, so you want to be heavier in elves.
Right.
So 5 mana, 4/5 flying, exile their top 2 cards, and then you can play a 2-drop out of it. And then next turn you play another one, and they can play up to a 4-drop, and it can look back at previous turns as well. Oh no, exiled this turn. Okay, so you have, let's see. Yeah, you have to play the card the turn you exile it. So the turn you play this, you can play a 2-drop. Next turn you exile 2 more, and you can maybe play a 4-drop.
Okay.
And it's only cast spells, so you can't play lands, but that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, this just seems cool in the elves deck. Like if you could just justify the extra blue mana somewhere, like this is sweet.
It looks like a builder on A- to me.
Yeah, I mean,
if you cast this and they don't kill it, you're going to get ahead pretty quickly, I would imagine. It's got a few moving pieces going, the mana cost, needing elves, needing fairies, but it's really powerful. Like, again, the litmus test I like to use with this kind of card is if your opponent casts this card, how do you feel when you can't kill it? And the answer is you feel like you're going to lose. So
you feel like you're going to lose pretty quick too. Yeah. I think it's just a question of getting the mana under it. But Maryland's like an A-.
Yeah, I'll give it an A-.
Next is Mirror Mind Crown. This is 4 mana for an artifact equipment at rare. It says, as long as this equipment is attached to a creature, the first time you would create 1 or more tokens each turn, you may instead create that many tokens that are copies of the equipped creature, and the equip cost is 2, and that's all it does?
Yeah, I knew you were going to love this one. So you got to play it, you got to equip it, then you got to make tokens, and you can make tokens that are copies of that creature. So you have to have a good creature, or it's not really worth it.
Easiest F of my life.
Yeah, I'm good to just give it an F. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I think you would be doing your opponent a great service by putting Mirror Mind Crown in your deck. Next up is Chronicle of Victory, which is 6 mana for a legendary artifact at Mythic Rare. It says, as it enters, choose a creature type. Creatures you control of the chosen type get +2/+2, and have First Strike and Trample. And whenever you cast a spell of the chosen type, draw a card.
Yeah, that's money.
That'll end the game.
I mean, this just looks like a build around A. Like you just have to, you just have to have enough creatures of the right type, which I don't think will be difficult, because you cast this, you immediately get this overrun of +2/+2 First Strike and Trample. It might just kill them.
Right.
And if you're lucky, you're not going to kill them, because then you get to start drawing cards. But
you get to start drawing cards. Yeah,
but I think Chronicle of Victory looks like a windmill slam early pick. You'd mostly rather be Kithkin or Goblins just to take advantage of this, but Merfolk are fine. Elves are fine. Just don't be one of the off-brand types.
Right. You don't want to be Giants or something. Build around A for Chronicle of Victory. And then our last cards are a cycle of Shocklands. We've got Hallowed Fountain, Blood Crypt, Temple Garden, Steam Vents, and Overgrown Tomb, all represented here at the rare slot. So dual lands that count as both of their land types, and they enter the battlefield tapped unless you pay 2 life, in which case they don't.
Yeah, these are all basically like C+ level cards.
Right. They're just fine. Okay, and then we have a much smaller bonus sheet than what we've had prior. So let's get through these. These are, I guess, the special guests. And again, they're like old ones. They're reprints. And we're going to we go a little quicker through these because some of them are just not really applicable and you don't see them very often. The first one is Idyllic Tutor. It's 2 and a white sorcery. Search your library for an enchantment card, reveal it, put it in your hand, and then shuffle. I could not imagine play that in this format.
No, that's enough.
Next is Kinsbale Cavalier, 3 and a white for a 2/2 Kithkin Knight, and night creatures you control have double strike. Not Kithkins, but knights.
Yeah, this is kind of funny because it's like asking you to pay attention to a subtype, like a secondary type, but it's 4 mana, give all your knights double strike. There are a decent amount of Kithkin Knights. Like I wouldn't be surprised if this card was okay in the right deck.
Yeah, and you're getting a 2/2 double strike for 4 kind of spotted to you here. Still feels C-ish to me, like a C.
I think so.
Next is Mistbind Click. This kind of interesting that they put this in because this has the old version of Champion, but this is 3 and a blue for a 4/4 fairy wizard with flash, flying, and champion a fairy. That's where you have to exile one that's already on the battlefield. And when a fairy is championed with this creature, tap all lands target player controls. This was one of the most annoying and hated cards to play against during its heyday because, you can do this during your opponent's upkeep and kind of in many ways take away a lot of their turn.
Yeah, this card is a bomb with the main drawback being that fairies are not the most supported type. But I mean, if you have sufficient fairies or changelings, this card is unbelievable. Like it puts them in such a bind, as it were.
Yes.
Like you can, if they attack and you cast this and you tap all their lands and then you block, they just automatically lose because they skip their turn. But if you have like some counters or something and then they cast something first and you cast a counter spell, that can work out. Or you just cast this on their upkeep and just make them skip their turn, which you probably will do. But most people's play pattern is to attack before casting spells because that is the heuristic, right? You want to keep your mana up. You want to threaten things. You don't want to show your opponent what you're doing before you cast a spell or before you attack, rather. So you look at Mistbind Click and it's just not hard to imagine how this is going to really just destroy the opponent.
Yeah, the one thing to keep in mind here is that, champion a fairy does mean it has to be on the battlefield. And if you can't, you have to sacrifice the Mistbind Click, which you can just do. You still get the effect. But, given that we're not going to have that density of fairies, that will make it even harder to keep this thing on the board. Next is Wanderwine Prophets. This is 4 blue for a 4/4 Merfolk wizard. And it says champion a Merfolk, so same thing. And whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice a Merfolk. If you do, take an extra turn after this one.
This one I don't like. It's so expensive. It has to get through. And you then have to sack a Merfolk to take an extra turn, which I don't think it necessarily
You're down 2 merfolk
Isn't
in the
a good
exchange already.
So I
Yeah.
kind of like F for Wanderwine Prophets.
Yeah,
I don't
agreed.
think this is it.
How about Bitter Blossom? 1 and a black, kindred enchantment fairy. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and create a 1/1 black fairy rogue creature token with flying.
That's an A. I mean,
it's one of the best cards.
If you just cast Bitter Blossom early, like it's so hard to lose the game. Because the other thing is, yes, you're losing a life every turn, but if you can block with the tokens, you're kind of getting some of that life back. Like if you need to chump, and there's just like most games, if you cast this early, you just kill them way before it kills you.
Definitely. Turn 2 Bitter Blossom is, and its enchantment, which is one of the most difficult.
Quite hard to kill, yeah.
Yeah, really hard to kill. Next is Fairy Macabre. This is 1 black for a 2/2 flying fairy rogue. And it says you can discard this card to exile up to 2 target cards from graveyard. So that's like if it's in your hand, you can just pitch it to get rid of cards. But that's not really a limited thing to rip up cards just for that small effect.
This isn't really a card I'm interested in playing. Yeah. Looks like a D.
Next is Goblin Chieftain. This is 1 red for a 2/2 haste goblin that says other goblin creatures you control get +1/+1 and have haste. Yes, please.
Yeah. I'm in for B+ for Goblin Chieftain.
Yeah.
A very solid card.
Definitely. Goblin Sharpshooter. This is 2 and a red for a 1/1 goblin. And it says this creature doesn't untap during your untap step. Whenever a creature dies, untap this creature and tap. This creature deals 1 damage to any target. Can become a bit of a machine gun when used, against small creature decks.
Yeah, I think Goblin Sharpshooter is unbelievably good. If they can't remove it, creature combat's like impossible. Because imagine this. You attack with your 2/2. They block with their 2/2. You're like, okay, 2 goblin triggers on the stack. I'm going to shoot your 2/2. Untap, shoot your 2/2. Now untap again. Still have 1 trigger on the stack. Shoot another 2/2. Untap, shoot another 2/2. Now it's untapped. And there's another trigger on the stack.
Right.
Well, maybe not in that case. But basically, with a sharpshooter in play, it auto kills all 1 toughness creatures because they can just untap after
for free. Like no. Yeah.
And anything that has 2 toughness, you just need 1 trigger to go on the stack, and then it can start mowing it down. Again, combat impossible with this thing out, or even not combat. Imagine you have this out, you draw a removal spell. You're like, okay, tap, ping your 2/2, kill your 3/3, untap, ping your 2/2. Now it's untapped again, ready to do its work. So I like A- for Goblin Sharpshooter. It's got 1 toughness,
A+,
just A.
It's
but like,
card ever.
if you've never played against this card, and honestly, it's probably been more than a decade since I played against this card. Well, if we're being realistic, more like 2. And in play, this card is just. It's just completely unbeatable if there's a bunch of creatures in play and you expect creature combat to happen. It's hard to overstate how annoying the card is.
Yeah, it first came out in 2002, Luis. Mm-hmm. Next up is Heat Shimmer. This is 2 and a red for a sorcery. It says create a token that's a copy of target creature, except it has haste, and at the beginning of the next end step, exile this token. Nah. Not worth a card.
I'm off.
Next is Devoted Druid. This is 1 and a green for a 0/2 elf druid. It taps to add green, but you can put a -1/-1 counter on it to untap it. So you can kind of burst mode for an additional mana on a turn.
And if you're pumping elves with some sort of pump effect, it adds even more green. So I like B for Devoted Druid. It's just a solid little card.
Definitely. And it's you get to tap it twice for mana in a turn, even if you don't mess with it. That's a lot. Next is Helix Pinnacle. Green for an enchantment with Shroud. People that haven't seen this card are going to laugh. You can pay X to put X tower counters on this enchantment. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 100 or more tower counters on this enchantment, you win the game. And Shroud means it can't be targeted by anybody, by the way.
Yeah.
100 mana is kind of a lot to add up, even if you're pretty good at making mana, right? Think about it. If you could make 10 mana a turn, it's still 10 turns and still you win until you win. So no, we're not playing Helix Pinnacle. Next is Leaf Crowned Visionary. This is green for a 1/1 elf druid that says other elves you control get +1/+1. And whenever you cast an elf spell, you may pay green. If you do, draw a card. Heck yeah.
Yeah, this looks great. I would probably put this in the A range because it's not only a lord, it also draws you a bunch of cards. So I like A for Leaf Crown Visionary. Just Go elves.
Definitely.
Go birds.
Next is Regal Force. This is 4 green, 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 7 mana total for a 5/5 elemental. And it says when this creature enters, draw a card for each green creature you control. Are we willing to pay 7 mana for a card like this at this point? It's still a lot of cards. It's still big.
Yeah, it counts itself, so it spots you one. It's an elemental, so your Flame Braiders can help cast it. I would say build around B for Regal Force. You got to do a little bit of work to make sure you can cast this. But, I mean, I can imagine an Elves deck that just has some removal, has some Elves, has a couple ramp cards, and then it's just like, all right, I'm going to cast Regal Force, draw 4.
Yeah.
It's probably going to win me the game.
GG. Next is Manamorphose. This is one in a red-green hybrid for an instant. Add 2 mana in any combination of colors. So it's mana neutral, but you get to draw a card too.
Yeah, this is a card you could always put in a red or green deck, and in your Vivid deck, it'll help fix some mana, but it's also not a card that does anything.
Right.
So it's like a C+, but you're probably not going to fit it in your deck very often. I would only play this if I really need another card, which is hopefully not the case, or you're playing like 5 colors, 3 to 5 colors, and you can actually use the fixing. But your average like green-black deck should probably not play Manamorphose.
Really funny. These next 2 cards are both in the green blue, and one of them is one of my all-time favorites, and one of them is one of my least favorites.
Yep.
First, the good
Who's
one.
to say which is which?
Yeah. Risen Reef, 1 green blue for a 1/1 elemental, and whenever this creature or another elemental you control enters, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield tapped. If you don't put the card onto the battlefield, put it into your hand.
So it's a 3-mana cantrip elemental that makes all your elementals cantrip, and if they hit lands, they just put them right into play.
Right.
Chef's kiss.
Beautiful.
B+ for Risen Reef.
And then we have Slippery Bogle, or from the Boggles
Boggle?
deck. Yeah. It's green blue for a 1/1 beast somehow, and it has hexproof. There's really no use case for it in limited.
No, this is clearly one of those like, we put this in here to, for
Maria,
some other
basically.
reason.
Yeah. Next is Dolmen Gate. This is 2 mana for an artifact. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to attacking creatures you control. Negative.
Yeah, too much has to go right for this to work. It's just too situational. This card can win games. You play Kithkin deck and you play this and just like every turn attack with everything. But their 2/3s still block your 2/2s. So yeah, I kind of like F for Dolmen Gate. I feel like it's not where you want to be.
Feels like it's hard to be worth a card there. Door of Destinies is 4 mana for an artifact. As it enters, you choose a creature type. Whenever you cast a spell of the chosen type, put a charge counter on this artifact, and creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1 for each charge counter on this artifact.
So,
I mean,
a powerful card, but it kind of has to hit the battlefield early on because
you play this with a cast your stuff after.
Right. If you play this with a full board, it might do nothing, and then it has the dream of getting up to 3 counters and being incredible. So how does this compare to like Gathering Stone, the uncommon that's like lets you kind of look for cards and make them cheaper? Yeah, it's similar. I would probably give this like a build around B. If you're really heavy in a creature type, it's probably still worth it.
Yeah, because you only really need to get to +2/+2 before it's like kind of already dumb, and +1/+1 is good. Like that, you'd be surprised at how good just giving everything +1/+1 is if you could build a deck that can make that happen. +2/+2 is really good, and +3/+3 is like GG kind of easily. So yeah, I'd go build around B for Door of Destinies. It would be worth including in your heavy creature type deck. Next is Painter's Servant. Oh my boy. This is 2 mana for a 1/3 Scarecrow. It's an artifact creature. And as it enters, you choose a color, and all cards that aren't on the battlefield, spells, and permanents are the chosen color in addition to their other colors.
So this is a card from older formats with like Grindstone and Pyroblast and stuff like that. I don't really know what it's doing here besides like it makes your Vivid stuff +1 color, but it makes everything all that color. I think this is worse by a significant margin than the common that fixes your mana and turns into a different color.
Yeah, totally.
Looks like a F to me. I just don't think I want to play this card.
Last card is 1,000-Year Elixir. It's 3 mana for an artifact. It says you may activate abilities of creatures you control as though those creatures had haste. and you can pay 1 mana and tap it to untap a creature.
It's going to need another 1,000 years to cook because it's not ready yet.
Put it back in the oven. 1,000-year elixir gets an F. Oh, man. These rares were impressive, Luis. There was a lot of 3-for-1s and like very big swing, kind of mega powerful stuff that we saw here.
Yeah, I mean the cycle of commands and the cycle of champions and then the cycle of elementals with evoke, like these are some pretty powerful cycles, and there are some interesting stuff you can do with them. I like the loop of Tristan's command plus the Dawn Pennant. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, the thing that stood out the most, it was rarely that we were like, is this good enough? It was more, where does it fit? Like, what do I have to do to make this work? Because there weren't that many that were just like blanket, cast them, they're great. Many of them were like, well, it depends on how many elves you control or what's your prismatic count or whatever, vivid count, these type of things. And I think that that's going to be the challenge, is not that the rares have the potential to be good, but it's up to us to kind of place them in a position where you're really going to get max value out of them. I think if you can, these are going to be like game enders. There was a lot of A's in there too. All right, let's call it a show there. If you want to find us on social media, I'm Marshall_LR and Luis is LSV pretty much everywhere. If you'd like to check out old versions of the show, including last week's set review, but also set reviews going back all the way to 2009, you can go to lrcast.com to see that, as well as links to our stuff on the front page of that, including Luis's YouTube channel, for example, so you can see him play Lorwyn Eclipsed already. He's already got some stuff up there that you can watch and see how he approaches this brand new format, and maybe you can emulate it at least somewhat. We also want to thank Ultimate Guard for their support of the show and our Patreon supporters as well. That's going to do it for this one. We will see you next week.
All right. I'm not a shuffler truther, but the arena team has been up to some shenanigans. Sutcliffe did data analysis after someone clued him in on it, and it actually lined up with what a lot of people, including ourselves, probably were feeling, which is that in the arena cube, you cannot open multiple pieces of power. There's like a power slot, I think that I don't think is confirmed, but we think that might be what it is. Mm-hmm. Cards you can't open Mox Sapphire and Mox Jet together, or like they looked at how often that happened, and it basically doesn't happen. So, and I think Mana Crypt and Soul Ring were included in that number. And I want to say there's a number of reasons why I think this was a bad idea to do. Number one, presumably it took work for them to implement this, so they had to like think this was a thing worth doing to code it, right? Mm-hmm. And we don't care about how much work it takes because that doesn't really impact us. But the truth, fact matters, they spent some time on it. Number two, and this is probably the biggest one for me, they're messing with how the packs work, but they're not telling you that in a way that's actually reasonably different than how they work in real life or on Magic Online or most of the other places you would experience that. Now, every time I've gotten past a piece of power, which has not been zero, it used to be I thought, oh, they passed me a Mox Jet because they opened a Time Walk.
Me
or a
too.
Lotus. And now it's like, no, they just passed you a Mox Jet because they decided to take who the hell knows whatever, but not a piece of power.
I got past a Black Lotus and I was going to send you a screenshot, but it was going to be like, yeah, somebody opened a Time Walk or whatever.
Yeah.
Now it was like, no, I just straight up got past a Black Lotus. Like, what?
Which... in pack 1, there's no excuse. In pack 3, Black Lotus is actually a pretty tough one, but I could see a Reanimator deck passing it for an Entomb when they have like the whole, the whole deck set up, or Underworld Breach when you have LED and Brain Freeze. It's a tough decision. Maybe you'd make it. I would take the Lotus, try to wheel the Breach, to be honest. If I have Breach and Brain Freeze and Lotus and LED, who else is taking that Breach? But But I think it is actually bad to do things like that without saying it. Not like the most grievous injury or anything like that. But one of the problems with digital games, especially ones connected to paper, is you really have to do a lot of work to make it feel like a paper game or to feel like a connection to the paper game. And stuff like this hurts that. It makes it less connected and makes people think, okay, well, you're stacking the packs. Are you stacking my deck now? Mm-hmm. Am I a shuffler truther now? Are you making it so I draw less lands? Or a very common one, they always pair you up in mirrors and stuff like that. Like, all the nonsense conspiracy theories, but you're just you're energizing them. You're giving them life by doing that. And the part that I think makes it is the most egregious to me is it's not even bad to open multiple pieces of power. That's what leads to you sending me a screenshot. You're like, oh, dude, I opened Lotus and Time Walk. Which one do I take?
Right.
Or like, hey, look, I got a 4th pick Mox Sapphire because this pack had a bunch of pieces of power.
Right.
And all that stuff is cool. The upside is true, which is more individual people open power because it's spread out more. But I don't know. The whole thing just seems kind of like a boondoggle. It just seems nonsensical, and it's not a big deal either way, but it is just kind of funny. It's like, why do this? Why spend the time to do this? Here's the thing I want to know. And I get to put my tinfoil hat on. They open the door for this. Do you think that they made it so people open power more often? Because I kind of have been feeling that.
Oh, man.
I feel like both I have opened way more power than in a normal run, and I'm playing against power more. I feel like the power is showing up at a higher rate, more than you would expect. So, because like, if you think about it, 2/3 of the time, or like 2/3 of the power should be opened in an average draft because that's how much of the cube is opened. I bet more than that is opened. And I don't have a way to confirm that, but that is my sense of things, my intuition. And humans are pretty bad at intuition on large scale effects like this. So I'm not saying I'm right, but I feel like I opened way more power and I played against way more power just in this run of cubes. So kind of curious. That one I don't mind so much. More power for everyone, that's fine. But the random, like, you can only open one piece of power, like, yeah, kind of strange is all.